Shooting in the bushes. It gotta be Mooch going live. Yep.
Yeah, we are very excited. Everybody's excited about tonight's show. Nobody probably more than me myself. This is one of those shows where you have an outstanding panel on, and you're just excited that you can talk video games with these great individuals. Guys, let me say this much. I want to say welcome, everybody. We do kick off the gaming weekend here with CrossFire. Please tweet it out. I put the link everywhere. You know where to find it. Let your friends, let your family, your neighbors know. If you don't mind, also hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and right there, right above that beautiful description, God, it's like poetry. It's like poetry, that description. Right above that's the join button if you want to become a Mooch Maniac family member. You'll even see some of the family members are on the panel tonight. Guys, we've got an outstanding show ready for you guys. I see such a great lineup in the chat already. Let me do this. Let me say thank you to each of those Mooch Maniac family members one by one as everybody kind of shuffles in and retweets it out and lets everybody know. Let me say shout out and thank you to the great Sir X-Man, JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, Frostbite Slash. Xbot is not on mute. He doesn't realize it, but he's not on mute. It doesn't matter. The great WoolleyGamer, Frostbite Slash, Zombilla Ice Cream, Custods X, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, All-Round Gamer, TrueWiddy, Kn1ght Ripper7, Big Chuck 777, Alphonso Carter, Punkidish, the great BRAP, Jamie, Lady Foxfire, Replicant, Damion, Evan Fassbender, pardon me, Wraith The Emperor, and our major Mooch Maniacs, Supreme Samurai, Gaming with Persona, Sergeant Salty Nuts, Donnell Brown, Smokes 901, That Guy Smitty, 4-Star General, Brian B, a.k.a. Delirium Blades, and our VIP Mooch Maniacs. You guys might know these guys as well. Shout out to Deadpool, one of our newest Mooch Maniac family members. Appreciate that. Strictly Gaming, Strictly! Rated D Demonic is back home. It feels good. You're going to be hearing a lot from this gentleman, the great Fork Boy Gaming, Tactical Gamer, Sean Slomka, and then I've got the Wise Old Gamer, Wendigo Rex, Brian Carter, Marty Bison. That's a great Marty Bison to you guys. MexJ88, Remarkable Knights, the great Percolite 9000, and our honorable mentions. We miss you. Come home, Chilean, Humacast, JWE316, Rich Kreiser, Ice Queen Gaming, now known as Dark Queen Gaming, the great Wilmy Hood, in the forever Mooch Maniac Long Shot 316. I'm already seeing the great Lady Foxfire, Mooch Maniac family member, right there. She says, hi, everyone, and of course, Mooch, great to have the lady here tonight. Guys, let me start the introductions and say what's up to everybody, because I want to get into these topics, and we only have 2 hours, or at least roundabout 2 hours. That being said, let me start with the one and only, the great Xbox defense lawyer, which, by the way, Xbox, I don't know. You might be just wearing complete, blue jeans and a polo shirt. You don't even have to be in your uniform. There's not going to be too much defense needed tonight, buddy. Welcome back to the show. We missed you last week. How are you, Xbot?
Yo, what is going on, people? What is up, chat? And, of course, what is up, panel? And, Mooch, I really think you outdid yourself this time, man. Looking across here at the panel, I see a bunch of really, really great gaming discussion that is about to be had. I can't wait, man. Let's go.
I appreciate that, buddy. Totally do. And guys, just so you know, the great Crap Gamer is a little under the weather, so do send your I hope you get better crap tweets to him. Let him know. And the great BRAP, Basement Radio Arcade Podcast, had a family event, so he couldn't make it. But the great Gaming Forte and Slow-Mo will be coming shortly. But let me say this much. I'm going to go ahead and just introduce the voice of reason, the man himself, the gentleman who has just so many things on his schedule, but he's snuck in Crossfire for you, not for me. It's not for me. It's for you. The great Eric Jackson is back. It is outstanding to have you. And, we're going to get into some topics tonight that you would think is just going to be a sensible, easygoing conversation, but there's going to be something or someone that strikes a nerve, and we need you to balance the force. So, welcome back to the show. How are you this evening?
Man, it is great to be here. I swear, Mooch, if something else would have come up, because I know the last few weeks we've been trying to get this going, and everything in the world has come up to where I couldn't make it on. I don't know what I would have done, man, but it's definitely for you, man. Come on,
I appreciate that
for the Mooch Maniacs, but definitely for you, bro. I'm always here.
Thank you.
Whenever I can be here for when you send out the bad signal. So
absolutely. Well, I got news for you. When you're here, it's just a better show. It's just the way it is, man. It's just the way it is. That's simple. So, thank you for being here tonight. Then I've got my special guests here tonight. You guys are really gonna get wowed by this one. Let me say this much first of all. I want to say shout out to Forkboy. You know, Forkboy Gaming, you guys know him from Game Beyond the Box. And, you know, they do so much on that channel. Shout out to Husk, shout out to Wilmy, shout out to Lady, shout out to, oh my God, it just goes on and on. Dreadpool, there's just so many. I'm going to say all the names, I'm going to leave somebody out and they're going to get upset, and I'm so sorry. But Fork, you know, you've been a huge supporter of my channel, and you've been here since day one. The minute you came on the scene, you reached out with open arms. You said, Mooch, I'm all about this. I'm all about gaming. I love to have a great time. It's been way too long since you've been on the show, buddy. It is outstanding and a privilege to have you on here talking games with us finally. I know your schedule doesn't always allow it, but it is an absolute honor to have you. Forkboy, welcome back to the show. How are you this evening?
I am great. Thanks for having me back. It's always a good time to be here. Great panel tonight. Great topics tonight. Kind of really excited to get into them and see where it goes from here, and kind of just chilling with people I actually like talking to, except for that Xbox guy. He's just too far out
Hold
there.
on, we got topics?
It's too.
I mean, I
of
got
course
topics.
we got
You didn't get
topics. Great topics, that is. Forkboy,
Really
outstanding, buddy. Great to have you. And then I've got a buddy of mine here. You know, it's funny, and I'm begging him. I'm begging him to get a Twitter @ again, because I just missed the conversations we used to have. We do them on Discord now, and I love the videos he's putting out. I laugh from the minute I read the title all the way till I get to the end of his videos, and he's been so consistent. The great Worry Ward 73. Worry, welcome back to the show tonight, buddy. And I got to tell you, I'm glad you're here this evening. I've been asking you for the past few weeks, and your schedule also has been quite tied up. But this is really something that tonight, with the questions I have and the topics I have, that you've been making videos on nonstop for the past at least 7 days, and I'm really excited to hear verbatim what your thoughts are on these. So welcome back to the show. How are you this evening?
I appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me. I know it's rough for me to get here, but I always appreciate you letting me hop on at the last second. Thank you.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime. You already know that. You got to know. You got a key. You've got a key. Great to have Worry here. And then this is just a treat for me, guys. You don't understand, okay? Came onto the scene many, many years ago. The man is fantastic. He doesn't really need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyways. The great Spawn Wave Media is with us this evening, and I'll tell you something. You know, there's something that a lot of people, when they're getting into YouTube, I always say that you have to have something. You have to have consistency. You have to have consistency, and you have to have love for what you do. The man has both. The man has both, and you can tell by the amazing amount of support. Let me say congratulations to Spawn to over 600K now on your YouTube channel, and it's just such dedication, and you love the product. You stick with the one. You talk gaming across the board. You talk PlayStation, Xbox, but Nintendo's always been your prized goal, like just your main focus, and I applaud you for staying with that over the years, and you've built such an amazing fan base. Spawn, welcome back to CrossFire, buddy. It is outstanding to have you on the show. It's a true honor, and welcome back, buddy. It's been too long, and I hope we don't wait this long again, but nonetheless, I'm going to take advantage of having you on this evening.
Yeah, getting everything synced up can be tough sometimes, but it is good to be here tonight.
Great, Spawn. It's great. Now, listen, guys, please, I'll remind everybody one more time. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. A cool little graphic comes up and you hit the subscribe button. That's right. That's right. It's something it just appeases everybody. But nonetheless, let's get into this first subject here. And Spawn, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to start with something just while everybody kind of shuffles in and we get a little bit of a couple more tweets out there to let everybody know we're live. I want to kind of get your opinions on the Switch OLED 1 week after using it now. Okay. I also picked it up the day it came out last Friday. I know that you had your event. I saw a Dreamcast guy, yourself. Sean wasn't, I don't believe Sean was there, but I loved Sean on the small little image that you guys put on the table there. It was great to see Sean, even though that small image was phenomenal to get his take. So you didn't get to necessarily game with it, or if you did, you were on the road. There was a lot going on. What's your opinions on the OLED Switch after using it the past week, and also what you thought going into it? Did you think it would have the biggest impact that you're seeing people say that we're reporting online now?
Yeah, more people were picking it up than I thought would. Like online, I see quite a few people mention that they actually bought it. I thought a lot of people would have just moved on from it and waited for something else from Nintendo.
Same here.
The thing is, we know how this works. A shiny new system or accessory, something comes out. You see it at first, you're like, maybe not, and then it starts to creep up on you, and you kind of get a little bit of that FOMO, and you just go and you pick it up. But this system, the Switch OLED, is basically just for people who are playing handheld. Like if you're just someone who leaves it docked, you might as well just not even pay attention to it.
Agreed.
Keep on going. But if you are someone who plays specifically in handheld mode, it actually is a legitimate upgrade over the LCD that's in the current Switch with the new OLED screen. Everything just looks a lot better, and it's what you expect. Like if you look at an LCD TV, for example, versus an OLED, it's going to be significantly better with contrast and colors and all of this. So I think the games themselves do pop off the screen a bit more, and Nintendo games tend to lean into that because they're more generally bright and colorful and all of this. But
it is a big difference, isn't it, Spawn? I mean, even the small screen space that's been expanded, when you're talking something portable, every little bit they give you does help. And that OLED screen, I've gone to someone that was completely docked all the time, and you might say, well, Mooch, if you got it docked, then why'd you buy the OLED? Now I'm enjoying it with the new, not the new toothpick, the old toothpick kickstand. Now they have like what you'd call like almost what the Surface Pro has on the laptops, right? Yeah. Now I have it at a 45-degree angle, and I'm enjoying it with a Pro controller on my coffee table while I'm enjoying another media slightly above it at the TV level. I mean, are you also doing this? This has made me go from docked to portable mode.
Yeah, I am more interested in portable mode now, just because I'm like, what does this look like on the little OLED screen? You got OLED TVs and stuff in the house, but something about just having that OLED screen right in front of you is, I don't know, it's more personal. I'm not sure, because I like the Vita when that released, the 1000. I mean, this was in 2011. It had an OLED screen, and it was better than everything around it at the time because of that. I thought anyway. Unfortunately, Sony didn't think so, but the OLED screen now on the Switch does feel like it's kind of that continuation from what I had on the Vita back then. But the weird thing to me is I don't know why they didn't like look to make this move with the Lite, the Switch Lite. It seems like that's should have been the path, but
yes,
it's hard to say what happened in R&D or where things are with chip shortages. Who knows? Maybe this system would have looked different in a perfect world, and maybe it would have had an actual upgrade around the chips inside. And then it would have been also an OLED screen. And then maybe they would have got 400 for it instead of 350. But I think for what it is now, if you don't have a Switch, you might as well get this one if you're shopping around for one. But if you already have a Switch, you're fine with it. You're mostly docked. Even if you're kind of handheld and you're trying to judge if you should, I mean, maybe wait a year or so, because there's been talks that Nintendo could be moving up to next gen in a couple of years anyway.
Well, what they were saying with that next gen that you're talking about as well, Spawn, those I'm hearing less about the Super Switch, if you will, and I'm hearing more about possibly just a 4K display. Another, I wouldn't use the word minor advancement, but it doesn't look like Nintendo wants to leave any of this behind. They just want to kind of keep a very small and easygoing progression as they go forward.
Yeah, I mean, what they want to do is just keep releasing more systems. I mean, it works. The Switch OLED sold like 138,000 systems in Japan in 2 days. So
that's amazing.
You have those kind of numbers, and I guess in your business, you're thinking, well, let's just release another one, and we'll kind of stair step our way. Forward. Yeah, we'll stair step our way through the generation until we absolutely have to go next gen, and then we'll do it. But it's I mean, it's their strategy now. I guess who knows? Maybe next year they'll move the Switch Lite up to an OLED display, and that'll be their big release.
So, got a question for Mooch and Spawn.
Go ahead, Fork.
So, I have the original Switch for my kids, and it's wireless and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But with downloading games and all that, how much of a difference is the Ethernet port? Is it significantly better than the Wi-Fi, or just a little bit?
Zero difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
It still runs on some like USB chip that's kind of like, basically it's still like limited in general. So like if you're using a USB to Ethernet now with your dock, it's basically the same speeds.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. So just with my current setup, I don't know. I have everything in the world plugged into this one room. I got to go get a larger Switch box. So I currently have my OLED Switch still running off of Wi-Fi. I'm still using the Wi-Fi. I'm not even using that Ethernet port. I probably will eventually, but again, I just go ahead and give Spawn the credit there and say that there's probably no difference. Plus, you're also talking about most Nintendo games, Fork. There's not a huge amount of to download.
They're not very they're not very big or anything. It's just one of those things where thought process on does it make it faster, or is it really not that big of a difference? So it's not like, oh, it has an Ethernet port. Well, it doesn't matter.
I like that you went there, Fork, versus what I'm glad that Spawn brought it up was the FOMO. You know what I mean? This is something we always kind of talk about too. Like, you know what I mean? Is it BRAP brings it up a lot? Is that fear of missing out? This is one of those things where you see everybody doing it. I watched a lot of videos. Game Informer, GameSpot did a bunch of these different videos, and it kind of talked me into it. Did you end up grabbing an OLED? I wasn't sure if you picked one up.
I did not, but you guys actually organically throw that in there. Moved into the question I was going to ask. Like, is there a world where people who are mostly handheld would convert just based off of the OLED? But it seems like some of you guys have actually played it more in handheld because of the extra screen real estate and what the OLED is doing. And I know the joke is, well, welcome to 2021 with an OLED screen, and it's like, look, you know who you brought to the dance. It's Nintendo. This is how they roll. You know, I'm not making an excuse for them. I'm just saying
they sold cardboard.
They just move. Yeah,
I mean, part of their marketing.
They get to their own drum Xbox. That's just how they. That's
part
how
of their marketing campaign was they had an Ethernet port now. It's like that.
Exactly, which was hilarious. Like, man, what year is it? You know, but as we see, did that stop anything?
Dude, yo, Eric, real quick, the one thing I'm catching from this is I remember when they first kind of revealed the Switch OLED, and everybody was thinking about, you know, an upgraded Switch, and you know, people were kind of going crazy with what could be under the hood and stuff. So it was a letdown when they actually announced this, and I know a lot of people that are like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe Nintendo is doing this. I am so skipping this." Now, the funny thing is, when the Switch OLED came out, those same people started posting pictures and stuff on social media that they had picked this up. I cannot believe there must be like a magic spell around Nintendo. Like, they can pretty much do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And people buy it. Like, people, again, I point out, and I will point out until somebody tops it, and Nintendo probably will in a couple of years, but they sold cardboard to people.
Yeah.
And people were like waiting in line to pick it up. It is absolutely amazing what they come up with. And you said about the marketing with the Ethernet port and stuff. And people are eating it up right now.
Well, you know,
it's
the Ethernet port, Xbox, the Ethernet port is definitely something, but I'll tell you something. It really is the OLED screen. And Worry, did you happen to pick one up? I don't know if you picked up an OLED.
No, I primarily play the Switch docked, so I didn't have any
need for
to
that.
run out and buy it.
Well, I think it's the OLED. It's in the case of this Switch, you're either going to get it for the OLED or not. And I don't mean to belittle any of the other little things that I think the screen size being slightly bigger is a deal. The Ethernet cable is definitely something there as well. But this is a tremendous difference. And I had them side by side. I probably should have taken some pictures or did all that. Of course, I didn't. But the other thing was the amazing trade-in. Spawn, I don't know if you covered that. I've watched a couple of your videos, especially leading up to the Switch OLED. And one thing that I just couldn't believe, and the great Gaming Forte will be joining us later, who's the manager of his store, and I happen to know the manager of my GameStop very, very well as well. Here, they gave for a pro member, a $260 trade-in. I bought my version 1 Switch, okay, in 2017 for $299. $299. I got $260 back for it yesterday. Well, because you can go do the trade-in a few days after. Mm-hmm. So I brought the Switch home, then went back and got the trade-in value. But that means I paid, $30-$40 over the course of 3 years. I mean, that's impressive. And I actually asked, and they said it was the largest trade-in value per ratio that they've seen in any console offered by any of the platforms. So I don't know why would Nintendo, I'm just wondering, is there any thoughts, Spawn, on your side of why Nintendo would spark giving back 260? I mean, is there just such a demand for the version 1 still out there?
This is through GameStop, right?
This is GameStop, yes.
This is GameStop. Well, I mean, the reason I would say if GameStop is looking at it this way, they're trying to collect Switches. They've done this before the holidays in general.
Yeah.
And they did it one year for the PS4, I think the PS4 Pro, where you could get like $200 some odd for your PS4 towards the Pro. Because I remember a couple of my friends were doing that. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I can think of from GameStop, from business perspective, is they want to collect a ton of them for the holidays, because for this holiday in particular, the Switch is going to be hard to find, the Xbox is going to be hard to find, the PlayStation, because right now there's the whole chip shortage thing that's going on. And the OLED model, specifically the ones that came out, they've had those orders in for the supplies and chips like a year ago or something. So now they have to start ordering more, and this is where they kind of go to the back of the line. So I think this holiday, you're just going to see fewer and fewer just systems in general on shelves, and GameStop is trying to get it out in front of it because they want to sell you the system along with a bunch of games. And if you think about Nintendo's games, they don't drop in price, which means those used games that GameStop sells also don't drop in price.
Well, not only that, but Spawn, I think you were saying this, like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but with them getting out ahead of this during the holidays, if they have a bunch of pre-owned Switches, and if people can't get the new Switch OLED, I mean, it's going to cause a lot of people who don't have a Switch to be like, well, because they'll bundle it. They'll, of course, the price will be cheaper. They'll bundle it with games, this, that, or whatnot. Holiday bundles, and they're looking because they make all profit off of selling like pre-owned devices and games and such. So they're looking to rake all the money in for themselves.
Exactly.
They have no problem giving you $260 for that. For that,
essentially, Nintendo is the Apple of the gaming industry, if you think about it.
No. The great slow-mo backslap. Slow-mo. What a great intro you got there, and the great gaming Forte is with us as well. Forte, we were just talking about the great incentive trade-in deal at GameStop for the version 1, version 2.
Did they come in together?
No, they didn't. They came in 2 different limousines. Yes, that's.
We just always show up to the parties at the same time.
It's great to have you both here. Slow-mo, I'm gonna go ahead and just keep on my Nintendo topics here, but I gotta go with one that I know you've been vocal about, and I don't know if you've been as vocal about this particular subject, but you've definitely been vocal on this when it comes to other games. And the one thing I want to bring up is the difficulty with Metroid Dread and the success of it as well. Let me just go ahead and ask you. First of all, have you picked up Metroid Dread at all, Slow-mo? Is that something that you will pick up? And secondly, how do you feel about people complaining about the difficulty level? And Spawn, I definitely want you to get your notes put together for this because I'm very interested in your take as well. But Slow-mo, please. This is something you've harped on many a times with the community on difficulty and developers needing to make things easier for certain gamers. What's your feel on this?
So when it comes to making games easier, I actually don't feel like a developer needs to do anything for gamers. Honestly, I see people say things like, we need more options here. Why doesn't From Software games have an easy mode? Stuff like that, and I'm like, because that's how they design their game. It's not going to be an easy mode. If you feel it's too difficult for you, then maybe this isn't the game for you. That's okay.
The heart of that game.
There's some games aren't going to be for you. Not everything is going to be tailored to just your experience.
That's right.
So if Metroid Dread's difficult for people, then hey, look, I hate to say it, but get good or get better.
Get good.
Or just play something else. It's no shame if you just can't deal with it. You don't like that game. But I thought you were actually going to talk about like the other issue with Metroid Dread, or the issues that have been coming up with people complaining about the price of it.
Well, no, that's part of it here, because there was part of my questions you could see too that I'm going to trade topics in a second. Here's Metroid Dread. Will Metroid top the 3 million in sales? That affects it with the pricing and then the difficulty as well, because I've seen both of those kind of with Metroid be more of the highlight, which is sad in one way, because I'd rather be talking about how great the game is. But of course, there's always controversy in the community. But yeah, either one, Slow-mo, please. Both of those hit home on both topics.
And by the way, I'm not getting the game because I don't have a Switch anymore.
As I was asking you the question, I realized that.
Yeah,
can I ask a question though, because I haven't started on Metroid Dread yet.
Sure.
I just actually got my copy in. But for those who have played it, and maybe people in the chat can say, there's a difference between like a very difficult game and a game that's challenging you. And nowadays, I can't tell from the timeline which category people fall into, because it seems like the moment there's a little pushback from a boss. Because you got people out there saying that we should be able to skip boss battles.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
What?
Yeah, I heard that.
You guys didn't see that.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
No, I didn't see that.
One of my favorite games ever is Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. And like the heart of that was the boss battles. Like you spent your time going back and forth through the labyrinth and stuff like that just to be able to get into that room and take out that boss. Like I do not agree with skipping boss battles at all.
I don't know if they I can't remember if it was directly at Metroid or just in general. Like
it was in general. It was a general
but you've seen that kind of
opinion thing from I think someone in Games Media.
It was somebody from Games Media, but you see that kind of sentiment, in different things, and it's always like it always seems to be the charge being led by Games Media, kind of pushing these narratives, and it's like we kind of live in a participation trophy world where people feel like Slow-mo said, like if something's not for you, it's not for you. I mean, not everybody can play soccer, not everybody can play football. It's just
I mean, people.
It's just how the world works. So if
people realize this is people realize that the initial playthrough on Metroid Dread is normal mode, right?
Yeah. It is. It's
Like
normal
there's a hard mode you unlock afterwards.
exactly.
And that's the thing I want to know is like there's a difference between difficult, challenging, and then in some cases with some games cheap.
I found it fair overall.
Right.
It wasn't. I didn't think it was that overly difficult either. Like I beat it in just over 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow!
And I'm seeing people finishing it, and not saying one thing about. They said it's challenging, but it's,
yeah,
some people acting like this is the most impossible game in the world.
No, it's nothing like that. I was playing through it. I never got to the point where I was 20 times against a boss or something over and over. Right. It never felt like that. You die a couple times, you figure out the pattern.
You didn't smash the OLED screen on the Switch, right?
No, you figure out the patterns and then you kind of work through it. It's like the classic Mega Man games from back in the day. That kind of setup where you figure out how
video game.
Yeah,
it's like a video game, exactly. Well, it's funny that Spawn. I'm glad you said that, Nee. You kind of you piggybacked it. I agree. Like people keep saying to me all the time that Dark Souls games are difficult, and listen, I'm not saying when you go up against some of these bosses that you won't die 2, 3, maybe upwards of 5, 6 times, but you do start to see the pattern, and then you learn and you cope, and that's the puzzle. That's part of the game. So the same thing goes here with Metroid. With me, honestly, the first few moments, I didn't find much difficult. I was just getting used to the mechanics of the game itself. Once I got that down, I found that it's been a pleasure to play the game. The other part that I haven't run into too many issues with, but some people online are saying that they had a problem with, is that, Metroid's always been like, you have to blast walls to find different exits or entries or special places. That's been something that Metroid's had since the beginning of time.
What do people want out of a game nowadays? I'm sorry, my voice is cracking.
Real quick,
they just want to turn it on and run right to the end and be done.
Yeah, basically.
Really quick, what I wanted to ask was when it comes to this Metroid game, because it's a 2D Metroid, kind of going back to like retro Metroid games, and like Mooch said, blasting walls, going back and forth and finding new paths and stuff like that. Some people, maybe that's if they're mirroring that in a new Metroid. And Spawn Wave, you might be able to tell me that, Mooch. Like, are they mirroring that? Because that could maybe frustrate the new gamer. I'm not saying it's right, but maybe that's where they see it as difficult. You mean
like the what the shooting the walls, or?
Well, no, like you get all the way. Say you go all the way to the right of the map, and you collect a certain thing. Then you have to go all the way back to the left, and you got to open a door there, which would bring you back over here. Like, it's a lot of like going back and forth, and today's day and age, the gamers that are coming up, they're different gamers, man.
I see what you mean. So
you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's just
built different.
The thing with Metroid Dread, and I think it does it very well without being obvious, is it does try to kind of, I don't say funnel you, but direct you in a certain way. Without you pressing a button on your D-pad and it just pointing at it, like it tries to help you along by, for example, you get a certain power, maybe you get the morph ball, and then near you, there's like stuff you break with the, or you can go through with the morph ball that you couldn't otherwise, and it takes you to or like a transporter that then takes you to another part of the map.
Yep.
And at that point, you get out and you go, oh, well, okay. Now where do I go now? And then you look around, you're like, oh, well, there's a thing for the morph ball over there. It tries to position you in spots around the map to where if you ran through it directly, it would feel kind of linear. But then, of course, you come to a part where there's 2 paths. There's one over here for a morph ball, another one over here for a morph ball, and you end up finding your way around. You get missiles, you get extra upgrades and all of this stuff. So it tries its best, I would say, to not fall into the hand-holding trope that we've seen with a lot of games now. But it's not going to click for everyone because of that.
But yeah, and that's always like been the brilliance with Metroid and Castlevania games and a lot of the indie games who have kind of picked up the mantle and taken it. It's like that's the reward for the exploration. It's like, oh, I can't get through here now. Obviously, there's something around here that I'm going to need to get through here. And then when you find that thing, you're like, okay, now we're in there. Because I know back on the other side of the map, there was that thing I couldn't get in, and apparently now I can get into it. And that's the whole purpose of it. That's the whole fun of it. It's not point A, point B, point C, click, 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 and hey, roll credits. And that's kind of what like the impression I get from some gamers these days is like they just want to open it, title screen, I ran across it, credits.
Well, an interactive movie is what they want.
Yeah, and it's like, and that's fucking, look, again, go with God if that's what you want, but at the same time, it's like you can't be mad at a game and doing the thing the game is supposed to do.
Games that are like that, like, hey, go play Life is Strange.
Right.
Go play the Walking Dead Telltale. There are games like that. There is a game like that for you. It's just not Metroid Dread.
Yeah. What's interesting about Metroid Dread though is like you can fight these bosses normally and learn their patterns and all this, but then you can do sequence breaking where you get abilities early when you shouldn't, and the game kind of leans into that because some of the bosses will allow you to one-shot them with it.
Right.
And it gives you another reason to go back through it. So yeah, I unlocked hard mode and I'm gonna play back through it with hard mode. So I'll probably end up getting 15 hours out of this game, and to me, yeah, all right with that.
Okay, well, Spawn, then let's. You just kind of opened up that door to what Slow-Mo was talking about. What's your take on the whole $60 then? You've seen people complaining about this online. I know that you've definitely seen it on Twitter. Do you, two parts to the question. Do you personally have a problem with paying $60 for it? Doesn't sound like you did. But do you see where some people do have a reason to kind of squawk about it?
Yeah, I mean, because not everyone's gonna have the same kind of value that I would for a game like Metroid Dread if it's a 2D game. Just like I played through Resident Evil Village. It wasn't a long game.
No, it wasn't.
And it was like, I think a lot of people were completing it in like 8-9 hours at the most, for the most part.
Yeah.
And I played through that and I was like, wow, that felt like a really good high quality experience. But then a lot of people told me it wasn't worth the money because it was so short. And I do feel like we fall into this idea that every game has to be 40 hours long for it to feel like it's the full price value. But then I also feel like, wow, this game probably didn't have to be that long. Like, did this game waste my time for 10 hours? Yes. Some games I feel like do that. Like they're like, we got to bloat this thing. Like I'll give you an example. Well, I'm actually playing Far Cry 6 right now, so it's funny you bring that up. But Final Fantasy 7 Remake, I felt there was probably about 10 hours that did not need to be in that game.
Yeah.
And that's just one I'm looking back. Yeah, like the sewers, for example. Do you think the sewers had to be as long as they were?
Man, yeah, you're probably right. What I didn't like about was the whole scavenger hunt portion where you had to go across like the older parts of the map to find like different things, and then it culminated with you going back to the sewers to finish something. I can't remember. It's been a minute, but that part kind of like there also wasn't any explanation or any like hint that you had to go back to the sewers as well. And I just went wandering around like the entire game for a good 45 minutes until I figured it out on my own. But yeah, I could see how it could be just a tad bit.
I was talking to MVG, I think, on our podcast about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and he told me it took like 60 or 70 hours to beat the game.
That was going to be my example.
Why did it take that long?
Why? And I'll be honest with you. You started saying it, Spawn, and I'm also playing through Far Cry 6 right now, and I'm enjoying it. But I can already tell coming down the pipeline, there's going to be about 20 missions, side missions, of course, that I'm like, why? Granted, I don't have to do them probably, but there's just going to be so much fluff, I believe, added to it. And I'm wondering, I don't know yet, I shouldn't speak that far ahead, but I've played other Far Cry games and they've done that. Maybe it's an Ubisoft thing. Who the hell knows?
Did you zoom out on that map, by the way?
Yeah.
I zoomed out. I was like, oh, man.
You're like, I got a lot coming my way.
How I felt about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I went into the map and I just saw them just throw up all these icons all over the map, and I saw how big it was, and I was like, nah, fam, I don't have the time for this. There's no way I'm beating this anytime soon. And I was done.
Maybe some people think that's a value to have like that many hours, even if you're not enjoying it. You feel like people feel like they got their value out of that, even though some people feel like they got their value out of a game, like say like a game like Inside that's a few hours. I mean, I know some people think, price or whatever the case may be, but
yeah.
But look, beating this drum all week saying like value is subjective. It's like,
it absolutely, it is subjective. Value is up to you.
Value is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if it's to some people too,
if we
for the price.
If we just take the game length out of it, I feel like there's a lot of people who are looking at it because it's a 2D or I guess a 2.5D, because there are 3D elements to it and your character is like rendered in 3D and all of that. And they do some of those big set pieces with bosses if you're countering them and doing it correctly. But I also feel like it's just people are looking at it being like a 2D style game, and that doesn't compute in their mind for $60 then.
Yes, and I did see a lot of that, and I told those people, explain to me why Godfall was $70. Because Godfall was a beautiful game.
Yeah.
But that was about all they really provided for you. Gameplay.
It was a rinse
Did
and
you ever
repeat.
get an answer on that, Slow-Mo?
It was a rinse and
Did
repeat.
you ever get an honest answer on that?
Oh no, not at all. Of course not. I didn't expect it, but you know, that's a
good
$70 game. It's a $70 game.
Get my burrito out of the microwave later.
That's kind of my concern, is that for games over the last 10, maybe 15 years, we've kind of strayed away from gameplay being most important to just visuals being more important.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Spawn.
Yes.
Thank you so much, man. I deal with that every single day. Start talking about a game, and people are like, yo, it's great. Yo, it looks like this. It looks like that. Yo, the lighting this, the lighting. I'm like, but how's it played? Like, you know what I'm saying? There's a whole gameplay element that you're not talking about, and all you're talking about are the aesthetics.
I think we're getting an Xbot. You've been vocal about that, so I got to give you credit. But I will say this much: I think finally, even though it's happening at a very slow pace, I think we are starting to slowly step away from that. Because let's be honest, Far Cry 6, okay, having a ton of fun playing it, but at the same time, I got to say it's not the most visually demanding game I've ever played. I mean, it looks nice. The panoramas look nice as you're kind of looking over the island and out into the ocean. It's very nice. But then you can see when you're playing, it still looks a little, it's not. They're not fully utilizing.
That's a Far Cry thing anyway.
Well, it is. There's a few aspects to it. It's not just a Far Cry thing. It's a Far Cry thing in the sense that right now they've got this game running. It runs on older hardware. First of all, second of all, it's the reason that we kind of fell into this whole thing was not this generation. It was last generation. It was the whole 1080p versus 720p. And like I said, I always tip my cap to people who do an outstanding job. And Digital Foundry does an outstanding job of their craft. They do. They really do. But at the same time, a lot of what they do, they know the minute they post something, it sparks an entire debate on both ends, right? So I get a kick out of that all the time. They'll post something, and then the people who run that channel are like, I don't know why everybody gets so upset. You know exactly why they get that upset.
But the thing that's weird about that is if you watch, like, for example, John Linneman, who does a very good job over there.
Yes, he does.
Like 3/4 of the video isn't even about the visuals. It's about the game itself. Like, he basically does full-on reviews.
He's doing better with that, yes.
Everything just breaks down into like how one is 4K and the other one's like just under 4K.
Just under 4K.
Yeah. And it's to the point where people wouldn't notice. Like, all right, Returnal, for example. Returnal was what, 1080p rendered, and then they did all kinds of tricks to get it to 4K.
Yes.
No one knew that until Digital Foundry told them that.
No.
And then they went off on a tirade in Twitter and Facebook and everything like that about the 1080p game.
Let me ask Fork. Fork, I want to get your opinion on this. Fork, what's your take on the $60 for this case? But we've had this conversation on I don't want to just pinpoint this on Metroid. This goes across a couple of different games on different platforms. What's your take on just this one here? And then you can kind of broaden it if you want to. What's your take on the whole like $60 value for something like a Metroid? Do you think that's an issue, or is it really just it's up to each individual holds that value sacred to themselves?
I mean, it all comes down to what you consider, time spent. To me, I've played MMOs where you spend thousands of hours.
Mm-hmm.
I've played games that only take 8 or 9 hours. To me, if I enjoyed the experience, that's what matters. If you don't want that, then don't be a gamer, because every game is going to be different.
Agreed.
If you're going to play a 2D scroller like Metroid, you're not going to get 40 to 50 hours out of it unless you play it over and over again. You're not. That's the game. That's the type of game it is. And that'd be like playing any other game that's single player and expecting to get 500 hours out of it. You're not going to.
Yeah.
They're designed for a single player experience that you enjoy. If you want that, go play WoW, Elder Scrolls Online, or something else.
You just took the words. You buy thousands upon thousands of hours, and it's a free-to-play game for the most part. I want to hit on the resolution thing. To me, I'd rather have higher frames per second than resolution. 1080p at 120 or 60 frames, yes,
to me is way better than 4K at 30.
And
I've had people argue with me on that, and I'm like, why? I'd rather have 60 frames.
Fork, the sweet spot, and give credit where credit's due to the PC guys. Been saying this forever. The sweet spot is over 100 frames at 1440p. I think that's really the new sweet spot. It used to be 10. I remember you want to go back, right? 1080p, 120 frames, but anything over 100 frames right now at 1440p, I'm ecstatic. That's my home sweet home. That's why what Spawn just said really kind of left a sentiment with me. That's one of the things with Digital Foundry, they're reporting, and again, they're doing their job. So I'm not saying that they should change anything, but when they're telling you that one console's at a native 4K and the other one's just a smidgen under it, frankly, I don't give a shit. And I truly believe that a lot of people that watch their channel, also doesn't care. They do care more about the frames and the performance of the game. Stuttering and issues like that, or pixelation issues where it ruins your gameplay depending on what type game is. That's something I'm more interested to find out from Digital Foundry. Whether or not I'm at full 4K or I'm just a smidgen under it really doesn't hold a lot of value for me. For me personally.
Mooch, like you said, last generation, unfortunately, with the whole resolution wars or whatnot, like the gaming community, especially the loud minority out there, the ones that are always out there on social media and stuff, when they were comparing 900p versus 1080p, and we want that native 1080p and stuff, they made resolution a more important focus than what it should be. Because if the community is demanding this and demanding that, all of a sudden the developers are going to be like, all right, well, now that we're when we're developing our next game, we got to think about that more than we would normally think about. You see what I'm saying?
No, I completely agree. I want, guys, I want to Spawn. I got to put you on the hot seat, and it's not necessarily a question you think. It doesn't put you on the hot seat, but we've all got to go to school here. And Spawn, I think you may be the teacher this evening. A lot of discussion with the new Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack prices being revealed. I think that there's two there's two parts to this story. There's what we're going to be getting with the new Switch Online expansion pack and those prices. Okay, there's the respected $50 for single, and family, I believe, is upwards of $80 now. But I've also read somewhere, and I don't want to say that it's gospel yet because I don't know, and I'm hoping Spawn knows this. Spawn, is it also that if you don't want the expansion pack and you don't want those extras, you still can get the Nintendo Online that we currently have for the current pricing? Is that also true?
Yeah, you can just pay $20 and just stick with what you have.
Yeah.
Well, that it's funny you say that, but that's not necessarily the sentiment that was going around online today. Everyone thought that the prices were just going up. Period.
Was that on Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the problem right there.
So
I mean, it's Twitter.
It is Twitter. Yeah, it's pandemonium without actually reading anything. So I mean, Spawn, what's your take on what you saw from what Nintendo presented today? Do you think the expansion pack is worth the extra money? Is it worth? Would you recommend it to people that listen on your channel and on this channel? Would you recommend the upgrade?
I mean, for me, if I wasn't doing YouTube and covering all this stuff, I would probably hold off on the expansion pack until I saw something that was really pulled me in. From what they showed with 64 games playing online, like that's kind of cool. But that is $50 a year for that. Just that
$50 a year, cool.
That's the part where I'm like, oh man, that's surprising that they didn't have anything else to offer in terms of the online service itself. What's weird to me is it seems like Nintendo started this whole thing at $20 a year with the idea of, okay, we'll have an online service that's worth $20 a year, and somewhere along the line it's shifted to, we're going to have this Netflix or Game Pass looking service that just has an online requirement attached to it. Like, that's not our main focus anymore, because that's kind of what it feels like now, is them saying we have over 100 some odd legacy titles here, and it's $50 a year.
Now, I didn't see Sonic in there. I saw Sonic 2.
I think they chose Sonic 2 from the Genesis. Which, by the way, so here's the thing that's confusing to me with this, is apparently one of the reasons that the price is higher is because they got Microsoft involved and they got Sega involved, because Microsoft, obviously with Rare, they have Banjo-Kazooie on there. I'm not really sure why they were like, well, we got to get Genesis. Why didn't they either leave it out and have the price lower, or go, hey, let's put Dreamcast games in here?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Because that would actually get people to stop for a minute and be like,
my heartstrings right there by
see?
saying
that would get people like, wait, there's not like, because there's an entire we all realize there's a Genesis collection available on like every system right now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like people may already own this. Like they may have access to most of those games.
Well, there's a Genesis collection on the Switch right now.
Yes. I think the one game
with much more games.
Yeah, I think Musha is the only one that's like surprising is there, because that's like a $400 game or something.
Let me ask you guys this though: with the current day, not the new plan that we saw today, with the current day $20 a year plan, do we still get to play the NES and SNES games that they had in their collection store? Is that still
the $20 a year one? Yeah, that's all still there.
That's all still there. Okay,
Yeah,
so this
doesn't
is
change if you don't want to. You can go up to this new plan, but you can still keep the $20 plan.
right. And I didn't know if they were removing. I didn't know if they were going to say, well, we still have the $20 plan, but that's only for playing online. We've removed, and all the games are now going over to the expansion pack. I thought they were going to remove all the classics over. If we can continue to have those classics, I still play those. That was what was worth it for me for the 20. Let's be honest, I'm not really playing like Splatoon online. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think anybody that knows me or the channel knows that's just not. Well, that's not my bag. But nonetheless, I do like those classic Nintendo games, those SNES games. That's just something that I didn't want to lose. This new pack, I don't see the upgrade for me personally coming into play. But that could just be me. I don't know if anyone besides Spawn probably gonna up their
my wife
expansion.
already said we're paying for it because she wants Super Mario 64.
Oh, so wait.
But
So
yeah, I mean, you can get the
I'm like,
collection.
I
You can get the
think
Mario
we can
64
buy
collection.
just the game, baby. Like, I don't think we need to pay $50 a year.
I would just do that.
wait, you
Can I chime in here?
I haven't.
Yeah,
looked
go
at it,
ahead,
but I'm
Worry.
pretty sure we can do that.
Well, I would get that anyway because Nintendo discontinued it, so it might even be something to have down the road. And Best Buy still has it for like $40.
That discontinuing makes more sense now.
Can you
though.
wait? They have Mario 64 for the Switch.
Yeah, it's in the Mario 3D All Stars collection.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
sweet. Then
That's
thank
right.
you,
That's
Spawn.
right.
I will go
It
grab that.
has Sunshine and then probably one of the best Wii games ever made with actually Galaxy 2 is better.
Galaxy. Yeah.
Very good game.
Go ahead, Worry.
So I think if you look at it from a macro level, like $20 a year to $50 a year, that's where the reaction is heated. But that's the reaction I would have if it was a monthly fee, $20 a month to $50 a month. So it's $1.66 a month for the NES, SNES games, added new ones every month.
Right.
It's an extra $2.50 for N64 and Genesis games a month.
Mhm.
So when you look at it that way, I don't think $2.50 a month for NES, SNES, N64, and Genesis games that the library just gets bigger and bigger each month is that big a deal. Now, the problem is it's approaching the price of PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live, and they offer a lot more ancillary features like, a competent friends list or a competent online. But I don't think, $2.50 extra a month is a lot. I don't think the outrage would be if it was a monthly thing that we're talking about here, like it's $20 a month and now it's $50 a month. I would probably have the reaction that most people are having, but I'm just not having it.
But I think that's
$2.
what that is the implication that a lot of people online were having. Like, I didn't look too far into it, but earlier today when I saw what was going around and I saw a graphic that was shown, I didn't see anything that talked about the old Switch Online subscription still being active. And so just by looking at that, I got the implication that the $20 subscription is gone, and when you re-up, you're going up to $50, and this is all you get for that kind of thought. And I just thought to myself, well, if I still had a Switch, I wouldn't be down for that. Now, again, we talked about how value is subjective, and that's what I place the value on what they are providing. Someone else may feel differently, but the way the markets work is if a lot of people feel like that price isn't worth it, then Nintendo will know. They'll be the first ones to know. They'll know before we will, because they'll know it's not selling the way they thought it was, and we need to adjust. This is why you see things go on sale pretty quickly when they don't sell well, because they're trying to find out what the actual value is from a consumer standpoint. And I mean, this is Nintendo. As I said, they are the Apple of the gaming industry. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they sell. It's going to sell. Then Apple will give you an iPhone, not give a new feature at all, and have people lined up around the block to get a new iPhone with a slightly better camera.
All this Apple slander, Slow-Mo. It's
Slow-Mo, I'll have you know I don't line up anymore.
Did I tell a lie?
Thank you, E.
Did I tell any lie?
I don't line up anymore either.
Android will have the features. Apple will say, "Look what we got," and Android had it for 3 years.
All this
like,
Apple
oh my
slander.
God, look what
We
missed
you, Steve Jobs. Listen, I got to be honest with you. I do kind of agree with Worry with the one thing that as we approach this dollar amount going up, I have no issue because nostalgia is a hell of a drug. I don't mind that extra. Don't worry. Thank you for doing the math. The extra $2 and change a month to widen your library of nostalgia. That's not a problem. But again, and I want to say shout out to gaming. Shout out to Gaming with Persona as a Mooch Maniac family member. Shout out to @Persona Speaks on Twitter. He says here, he goes, the biggest problem that I'm having, and this is what we alluded to, is proper invite system we don't have, no voice chat system, an outdated friends request system, and limited or outdated cloud saving features. So shout out to Persona for that. I gotta say though, I agree with what Persona and what Worry were saying. I don't mind the extra money out of pocket, but I feel like I'm paying more. And on a day-to-day basis, here I am playing Metroid, and the only thing I really get out of satisfaction with my online with my friends, and I have a lot of people because of the newly acquired system they had, 6 months, a year ago, where you can link it up to Twitter, and now anybody who's with you on Twitter all can kind of meet up and know that you're on Switch. But like, except for knowing a friend of mine is on there, like, there's no novelty of like, I have Spawn or I have RGT on my friends list, and I'm like, I would like to be like, oh wow, they're on. Maybe I can, hop into a party chat and just be like, hey, Spawn, listen, I gotta be honest with you, I'm stuck on this one spot. Just kind of bullshit a little bit and just have some fun through gaming. Gaming's always been better with friends for the most part. Doesn't mean you don't want to have a great single player experience, but playing with friends, even if it is a single player game. Shout out to Talus right now who's in the chat. I was playing Deathloop. And he goes, hey, Mooch, how you doing? I said, buddy, I got a couple questions about Deathloop. This was the first day it came out. He goes, no problem. We linked up, and on PlayStation 5, it was kind of nice. I was able to share my screen. He's like, oh, you got to go over there, and then you got to do that, and once you do that, you're good to go. I'm like, all right, thanks, man. That's cool. Like, that's part of the experience and having this community, and I wish Nintendo would just catch up with that, and I don't know why they won't. I'm all for them being stuck in their ways in certain categories, but just why they don't kind of expand out and make the online system more friendly, more user-friendly with friends and enjoying that. I just think that would they could charge more easily if they were to appease some of the requests that the community's had for ages. You might go, well, Mooch, just relax, give them time. We've given them a lot of time. I mean, it's not like they don't know, right, Spawn?
Yeah. The biggest issue I have with the whole thing that we see with this expansion pack is like, I envision like an alternate reality where Nintendo showed up with like the basic online that the Xbox 360 launched with or something, and they sold that for $30 a year on its own, and that was fine because it's half of what the other companies are doing. And they decided, you know what, let's go all in for this Game Pass Netflix service. Let's just grab all the systems, we'll throw them all into this massive pile, and we'll charge $10 or $15 a month, because if they have like every system they have in their past, they go to third parties, they get like 20 systems, something crazy, and they keep adding to it. Like, that would be significantly better, I feel, rather than them trying to prop up their online with like 3 or 4 games every 2 months.
Yeah.
So I have a question. The expansion pack that's $50 a year, will the more games be added to it as it goes on, or
okay?
That's
so
it?
we have to hope that Nintendo actually does it. Because and I say that because I remember when the Switch first came out, we were going through, a lot of people were unboxing, going through settings, and they got to one of the tabs in the settings, and it was themes, and they were like, oh, okay, there's light theme and there's dark theme. Well, I'm sure in a year or two they'll have a bunch more themes. Go to the settings today and take a look at the themes. And that's just one example. It's just, you have to hope that Nintendo doesn't show up with like, I would say, just boring games, because they've done it with the Super Nintendo for a little while. They've shown us some games coming, but I will admit, if they do something like get GoldenEye with online, they're probably gonna pull some people.
Yeah, that would go nuts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, when it comes down to it, I got to give a shout out to Oh No, It's Alex. I watched his video today about this whole thing, and I kind of agree with him on this, because he says, Nintendo is putting this stuff out there that normally other companies would just put into their service, and that would be that. But they're putting this in, and he's having a hard time like thinking about putting that money down and getting kind of like drip fed these games like over time. You know what I'm saying? They're already older games. Yeah, they might be iconic or whatnot, or they might not. You don't know what they're gonna pick. He kind of was talking about the whole virtual console thing, and being able to choose what games like you wanna play, you wanna download or whatnot would be the better option. I gotta agree with him on that. Like, getting drip fed from Nintendo, because again, Nintendo they think differently, and you don't know exactly what they're gonna put in there. Like when any of the games that you really want to play are gonna hit the service or whatnot, but you're still throwing down that $50 a year.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think anybody would like to have that option. Xbox. The thing is, Nintendo knows by drip feeding it to you that you continue to hold on and continue to pay. It's like with a certain, like you see Disney Plus, right? They were one of the first ones to do it, where unlike Netflix will just put an entire season out there, and then you can watch it. Go ahead, bro.
I don't think that's unique. I don't think that's unique to Nintendo.
No, it's not.
Drip feeding things to keep you subscribed. Game Pass is doing it, and so is PlayStation now. PlayStation Now as well.
That's
I think Nintendo picked that up from the other companies.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think they realized that it works.
Well, look,
there's
even
one other.
Go ahead.
There's one other part, Mooch, to the expansion pack thing, and I'm curious because I looked at this and I wondered if people are going to have a different kind of expectation now going forward with content Nintendo releases, because part of that expansion pack is that there is like I think it's a $20 or $25 DLC that's just being part of it for Animal Crossing, which Animal Crossing, big games, like 35 million people who've bought the game, something crazy. But that means that there are going to be probably a lot of people who may buy in to this pass just because they already have Animal Crossing, and it's like, I'd spend the money anyway, why not? So does that mean that if they do that, will they have expectations going forward that like all the DLC that Nintendo creates and goes to sell just goes in that expansion pack?
See,
I would think that.
You know, I think that might be something that they could look at to do rather than day and date releases. I mean, if you can just put DLC for big releases in there and entice people to subscribe rather than put your big games in there like Breath of the Wild 2, that might be an avenue that sparks subscribers.
So here's the problem that I have with that then is Nintendo's been doing this thing with some of their games where it feels like they're withholding content in order to essentially create a roadmap artificially, like they did it with Mario Golf. Like they were missing some characters, then a month later, 2 characters that everyone figured would be in there because they were in the story mode appear as a free download, like to keep people interested. Does that now become something that is paid if you don't have the expansion pack?
I see.
That's kind of the door I'm concerned gets opened here, and Nintendo starts more or less looking down the paid DLC route just to now start propping up this expansion pack like they are using games to prop up their online service.
Yes, I'll be honest with you. Now that you put it that way, Spawn, I actually do see that being the way they're probably going to go. I don't know. It does, because right now, what DLC for Nintendo games have they been usually free, or have they been discounted, or I mean, how do they usually handle it? They've done an alright
job with it. I know like Splatoon had like paid DLC, but they had like Mario Tennis that was just free DLC for a while. Like they just kept adding characters over the course, I think, a year. And Animal Crossing had
the same thing with Smash Brothers, right? Smash Brothers, they keep adding characters, and
Smash you have to pay for them, but that kind of makes sense because there's a lot of licensing involved there. Like that has to be a tremendously expensive game to get to the finish line. I mean, they said like 1,500 developers worked on it, and it is a whole thing. And it's like $7 or something like that for like different characters. So
I just paid $29 for all of them.
There you go. So it's not like the worst thing I've ever seen. And for a collaboration like that with Smash, I mean, people talk about content. There's a lot of content in that game. So.
Well, mind you, the $29 unlocked every single character that you can play. So
yeah, that game is like.
I wish I got into. I just never. I maybe it's just because I left that whole genre a long time ago. But like Smash, I mean, I don't. Do you guys play a lot of Smash? Like myself personally, I just don't.
Can't stand Smash.
The level, it's the level design that bothers me. The fact that there's like 3 tiers and it's all over the place, and you're always constantly getting knocked off, and then you're not really dead from that, but you are. I don't know. For me, I've always lost track of that one. I mean, Spawn, is that something you play a good amount, or not really?
Smash Brothers, I played it back on the 64 and then the GameCube and the Wii, and I started falling out of it after that because.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, the Wii U came along, so.
Certainly did. I got a couple of super chats here, guys, and then I want to kind of shift subjects here. So shout out to the great Jimmy Harrison. He says, you guys are the best, man. Chilling in my office, finishing Back for Blood, listening to my favorite podcast. Jimmy, thank you so much. And guys, the super chat's working. It's a miracle. Well-balanced nuts. Always great to have him here as well. He says, where's the leader of Pegasus Nation, Mooch? I'm not sure which leader. There's a few of them out there. Well-balanced. But nonetheless, I'm glad you're here. I appreciate that, guys. I do want to kind of shift over. And it's fun because, you know, I don't usually get a chance to ask these questions to Spawn, but Spawn does such a great job of providing news on a daily basis. Spawn, you know, so recently, and shout out to the great Jez Gordon. I think Jez does an outstanding job at Windows Central. A very good friend of the show as well. he did a piece on Avowed. And, this is a game that I was looking forward to myself, especially because, the Outer Worlds for me, that didn't really ring my bell. It didn't really do a lot for me, but Avowed may be that game that I think I really want to kind of sink my teeth into. So I was reading the article and I was enjoying it. But then, of course, and I don't want to use the words improperly, but the words pre-production came up, and I don't mean it to talk about Jez's article at all. I just mean when we're discussing a lot of things when it comes to Xbox nowadays, we are talking about pre-production, and that's what we hear from various different companies, whether we're talking about Hellblade 2, and we're talking about possibly Avowed, and then we're talking about another game. It's always like it's coming down like Perfect Dark. We're very early on. We're very early on. These are studios that have been picked up from Microsoft years back, and they've been seemingly doing something before they were acquired. So that, because everyone's like, well, this has been my passion. This is what I've been wanting to do. So they must have been working on it. So I guess, Spawn, I want to just kind of open this it's a very top level question. Is here you've been a huge proponent, as have been many people on YouTube, of saying Microsoft's going in the right direction. They kind of took their licks last generation. Now they got everything, on the up and up. But here we are with another game where it's like, okay, it's pre-production or it's just early on. I shouldn't say pre-production, but because Jez came back and corrected what his interpretation of it in his article. But I'm saying, like, whether you want to use that particular game or you want to use Perfect Dark, you choose the game. I'm just saying to you, what's your take on what's taking so long? I mean, we used to say the pandemic, and the pandemic definitely plays a role, but you see that games are coming out for Nintendo. You see that games are steadily coming out for PlayStation. And then you say, what's going on with, it's not Microsoft's fault. They just acquired them. So you really can't point the finger necessarily just at Xbox. These studios, why is everything such in pre-production? I mean, even Everwild is still looking for a creative, director or story writer. What's your take when you see these articles?
Everwild was a weird situation because they announced the game before they knew what it was supposed to be. I don't really know why that was, unless they were just looking for some sort of hype, something to be like,
some
hey,
news
this
out.
is what's coming. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Microsoft's been doing, is just announcing things really early in an attempt to build up this generation. Because the idea is we should see all of these games release during the Xbox Series generation. So they're like, well, we'll just announce it and it'll give people stuff to talk about. And then they keep doing more and more news pieces as they go along. The Avowed thing, it seemed like Jez mentioned that 2023, I guess, is around when he's expecting it to come
Jeff
out.
Grubb also reported that too.
And it sounded like it was kind of going more pre-alpha almost for it from what they're working with.
Right.
So okay, that makes sense there for that. And it seems like Microsoft is set up their 2022 for the most part, and they would be looking to 2023. But I think people are just realizing how long it takes to make games now with some of this stuff. It takes a long time. So I think Microsoft acquired these studios, they set them up, they started hiring, and then they start working on a game that's probably going to take 4 or 5 years to make. And that's just kind of where we are with games now. I mean, it comes back to the 2D, 3D argument. People like the visuals and the way games look now. And maybe Sean Lane's right. Maybe there's a breaking point coming at some point.
I agree that it does take at least 4 or 5 years to make good games, but some of these games we're talking about, they announced 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
So it's like, how much time does it actually take? Does it take 4 or 5 years, or does it take
more like 2, dude?
No, there are a few games that they announced about 3.5 to 4 years ago.
The earliest one that they kind of
announced. Well, let's just say it's 2 years. Okay, so where are we now? It's 2 years later, and we're still in pre-production.
2 years from now would be 2023, and that's exactly slated. Like, that's what Jez said. That's what Grubb said in terms of the game releasing. So that's pretty much on point with what you're saying.
No, they announced. I think they announced Avowed at least 3 years ago.
Development. That's what it's been 2.
Hold on, I'll tell you in a second. I'm pretty sure it's 3 years, but okay, let's say it's 2. So you add 2 years to that. Okay, so we're talking 4 years development time.
And that's exactly what you said.
Avowed was announced last year.
No, I'm not saying that. What was it? Avowed?
Yeah.
Was announced last year?
It was announced at E3 last year.
Yeah.
What was the game they announced? There's got to be. There's a game I'm thinking of that they announced.
I think you were talking about. Was it Everwild that came from Rare?
Is that the one with the?
Was like the year before that.
Yes.
So I think Everwild was like the Video Game Awards or something like that. Like in 20. No, it was XO 19.
Yeah, it was the Xbox Everwild. Like gaming experience, whatever they call it. XO.
Yeah, the XO. I mean,
Yeah, we
that's
had
the
no
only
idea what it
thing.
was then either, and they couldn't even explain it.
Well,
so
you got to
we should-
remember
there's
something
some red
too.
flags there.
You know, Xbox, you made a good point, but just to piggyback off of Worry's concern here is that we know this as well, right? We know from games that are coming out this year. Just because, like we say, they're slated for 2023, that doesn't mean that they won't run into a hiccup or an oops and it gets delayed, right? So, I mean,
people were swearing that like God of War Ragnarok was coming out this year until they said it wasn't.
Well,
So,
but we know why. We know why.
We go with what is said until what is said is changed.
But the studio made a conscious decision, which was the right decision, by the way, because the actor who does the Kratos voice he had injuries and he had things he had to take care of, so they delayed it on purpose, and that was rightfully so. But I mean, that's different than having problems internally. I mean, you've seen with like Halo now. Halo's it's going on a full 6 years since we've gotten another Halo, and the campaign seemingly coming in hot. I mean,
when it comes to the campaign of Halo, I see what you guys are saying, and I have a feeling that they're gonna have like a 20th anniversary kind of like special, and that's where they're gonna show the campaign or whatnot. But when it comes to Halo, people also got to realize they created an engine for this. Even if they piggybacked it or added it on top of an engine, they built something bigger and grander to make future Halos on within that quote unquote 6-year development. It wasn't a typical, we're just developing a game here. Like, so that is what it is with that. But for the most part, you got to think Xbox has 23 studios as well. They haven't talked about everything that's being developed. We haven't heard anything from Coalition. There's a bunch that we haven't heard as well. We heard like the heavy hitters when it comes to like Hellblade 2. We know Starfield is slated for next year as well. That game Redfall. So when it comes down to it, there are games that are dropping. They might not be the ones that you are looking forward to, Mooch, but they are that wheel is turning.
I think before listen, I don't ever speak in that. I don't. It doesn't have to necessarily just pertain to my liking. That's not the point of the conversation at all. As a matter of fact, a game like Redfall, which right now I would say I'm lukewarm on, that might be a game that I end up loving.
I'm so happy it's something that's not like it's like a scary scenario, but it's not zombies and they're going vampires, something different. I'm down for that.
Well, me, you can throw zombies in any game and I'm gonna buy it, but that's a me problem.
Well, I mean, I told people that game reminded me of Borderlands, and people acted like I was crazy.
And now they're saying it is. Didn't the studio come out and say it's Borderlands-ish?
It wasn't directly the studio, but the people who I guess who were able to play test it or whatever. Like there was a whole leak of like a whole bunch of not content, but a whole bunch of facts about the game, and it was mentioned in that like 24 facts about the game, like Borderlands was said like 5 or 6 times. So like it's going to be that, if it's going to be that kind of like co-op experience, I'm down for that, because like I'm a huge Borderlands fan. In regards to games taking a while to make, I mean, like some of the best games that we've played didn't take 3 years to make. They were games that took upwards of 4 to 5 years or more to make. And so and sometimes you get games that are in development hell, of course, and they may have taken a long time, and maybe they should have just never came out or should have stayed in the oven for a little bit longer. But I don't think because one game is having an issue, that means that all these games are going to have an issue just because they all have the same publisher. I think that's it's a bit presumptuous, and I think we get into a mode where we just kind of feel, well, because this happened to this one studio, then it has to be happening to everyone else, and I don't really think that's the case. All these studios are different. I think for Xbox Game Studios, they have a wide range of quality when it comes to their developers. I think they got some developers that still need to prove themselves, like Undead Labs and Compulsion, but then they got also developers that have already proven themselves in the Coalition, Playground, Obsidian, Ninja Theory. So you have your studios that, if they're going to take 4 or 5 years to make a game, it's probably going to be a really good game when it's all said and done.
Go slow-mo real quick on this, and it's something I wish Crap was here when we're talking about this, because me and Crap for years we were talking about how Xbox and Phil Spencer didn't want to show anything too early, and like me and Crap agreed that you have to let people know that there is a future on that platform.
Yeah, I agree with that. A roadmap. Yeah.
So when they showed like Hellblade 2, when they showed Avowed, they were showing people that there is a future. It might be 3 years down, and whatnot, but they were showing people that you might be excited for Starfield, even though I still don't really know what the game. I got
Nobody does.
You know what I'm saying? But you might be excited to hype for Starfield, but to know that beyond that, you saw that teaser trailer for Avowed. And when it comes to the games that people are talking about, the Hellblade 2, Avowed, stuff, they were all teaser trailers, kind of like announcement, teasers as
Right.
what's coming. Like that is the initial kind of like first step anyway.
Yeah. It's cool. Okay. I'm kind of anti teaser trailer, and here's why. Especially if the game is coming out within a year. Like take Redfall for example.
Right.
Like even though I thought that was a cool trailer because it allowed me to learn what's going on in the game, the personality of the characters, who these people are and stuff. But if the game's coming out in a year, I kind of want to see some gameplay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I don't see gameplay, I think there's issues. There's something going on. They don't want to show you so somebody can nitpick it apart. So if they're not going to show me
That's right,
gameplay,
Fork.
then obviously they don't have enough
It's
faith
not
in
ready.
it, because people are going to tear it apart. So if you're not willing to have that, then obviously it's not ready. There's too many games that have come out that were not ready to be released, that should have been stuck in the oven. And I've said it before, it's better to delay a game than try to patch the shit out of it at launch.
100% agree with that.
Yeah,
And E, I was
1000.
gonna go to Fork. I want to ask E as well. That's my one question with let's use Redfall for example. I mean, when you're a year away, I mean, guys, that's the thing. Whether it's Spawn, myself, Slow-Mo, anybody on this panel, you guys, we've all been doing this a long time. And welcome back to Great Gaming Fortes back on the show. I want to say that, in all honesty, like my question to you guys is, when you're a year away from release, and they said it was going to be slated for the end of next year, like Redfall is, why would you show that in depth and take so much time away from the team to make that? Don't get me wrong, it was a wonderful CGI, but like, why not show?
That's actually slated for summer, I think.
Summer then. Wouldn't you show
that's
if you're only
holiday next year.
6 to 8 to 9 to 10 months away? Why wouldn't they have showed footage? To me personally, that's got delay written all over it.
Yeah, that's what I would say too, because it's very odd, especially for for a studio like Arcane. Usually they do come with gameplay. They usually have no problem showing you gameplay.
Absolutely. That's my thing. So when I saw that, they're like, odd. I was like, oh, I thought like Xbot. I was like, okay, we're seeing more of the roadmap. And then they're like, coming next year, and I was like, well, wait a minute.
Whoa. It's like, whoa, really?
Where's the gameplay? And I mean, and again, it all comes down to this, and I don't know if it's because some of these people that were working on, some of these developing teams that were working on games, and then they say, listen, you have to kind of alter. That's one of the questions that's going on right now. You don't see a lot of loud news articles about it, but you see some small publications out there, and they're like, maybe, we don't know. Some of these delays and the holding back is because the game needs to be shifted towards the Game Pass model, right? It has to work in the Game Pass model, which is what we just said with possibly Spawn throughout that. He threw that up in the air, that volleyball, of whether Nintendo was going to do that with their service as well. Go ahead, Xbot. What?
No, I was going to say, when it comes down to it, the Game Pass model is variety. Of course, you're going to have games as a service. You're going to have microtransactions in certain.
I meant more the latter two than the variety.
Yes,
I mean, variety.
The variety is the model though, because you want the single player gamer.
That's the sales pitch.
To look at Game Pass and be like, well, there's that game. Like, I'm already getting my money's worth, and it has the games that like cater to me. Then you have the multiplayer who's like, oh, there's that game. Like, you see what I'm saying? So they want like every type of gamer in there. So the model for Game Pass is variety. Now, when it comes down to it, where you're going to make the most money is with games that have microtransactions, like games as a service and stuff like that, which you're also going to see that in there. But that doesn't mean that that's the actual model for it, because you want to get as many subscribers as possible. You want the single player gamers in there. You want the multiplayer gamers in there. You want the gamers who cannot control their finger when it comes to ordering stuff in a game that they're playing. You want them in there as well. You want every single gamer in your subscription service. Variety is that model.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that.
I-
As
I-
go
I-
Variety is
ahead.
there,
Go ahead, Rory.
but it's also got to be. It's got a lot of factors. It's got to be quality on top of that too. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, that's where
Yeah.
I wanted to go. I don't want the kind of content that's being created to be created with the twitchy purchasing finger button in mind gamer. And I'm not. Are you saying that they have that variety now, or that they want that?
Well, I mean, I can see the variety in Game Pass like that now.
Okay, well, I'm a
forward,
single player
it's
gamer,
growing.
and I don't have much to
Well,
play.
no, variety. I'm saying the single player.
Right.
Really? I'll pull
I-
up my Game Pass and I'll check out exactly what.
Well, no, I
single
know.
player-
I think I know
Yeah.
what he means, and honestly, we can kind of parlay that. You know what I mean? I'll throw this volleyball up there, see if you guys want to spike it down. But like we've seen a couple of games come day and date third party, which Microsoft really should do, and they are. But like again, here's Back for Blood, and you know, shout out to Fork. We were talking about this
Which
game.
isn't a single player game. Right?
It's not a single player game. You're kind of slapped on the wrist if you do play a single player.
I tried it. Yeah.
So, but Back for Blood, I'll be honest with you. I played. You saw some gameplay footage. I played just about through the first act. I'm gonna play it again. It's a twitchy kind of fun thing, but it's not a very good game. I didn't find it to be that great. I think the score that the meta put out there kind of nailed it. And then you had Outriders, which was broken for the first 4 weeks, right? And
4 weeks.
Was it longer, Fork?
I would say it's still broken.
Okay, so I purposely bought the game because I wanted to get behind the developer. I re-downloaded it 3 weeks ago. The game is still an absolute mess.
Well,
Yep.
And
Like,
honestly,
I have a Devastator that I will do World Tier 10, and because I do so much damage, I have to wait. Even though it's timed, I have to wait for the system to realize I've killed everything to spawn new enemies while it's timing because I killed them too fast.
Oh wow, yeah.
Like it's an absolute
There
mess.
are
The fact that
bunch
they
of
want
single-player
to,
games.
And maybe it's bad
release-
luck, or maybe it's because these teams said, "Hey, listen, we'll give you this game." The publisher was like, "We're not going to probably sell a lot of these. Let's make a deal with Microsoft." But I mean, outside of MLB
that's my
the
point
show,
when I'm talking about like they partnered with something like Back for Blood, but I would rather them, and I know it's not going to happen, but every once in a while, why not partner with a brand new big single player game like a Tales of Arise? That would be something to get me and single players in there, not old single player, third or first, it doesn't matter. Not old third party single player games that I've already played. Something new.
Day
The
and
new
date.
big thing right now is Back for Blood.
that's
and the
the
new big
thing. If you, in that
is Outriders, and the new big thing
Right.
is like, where's the new big partnership with a single player big game? That's not. It could be first party, it could be third party, it could be second party.
Coming out, though.
Xbot, when
what
you
is-
said what's the sales pitch or what's the real truth to
So
Game Pass?
diversity, right?
Well, he said diversity. You know what I'm going to go ahead and say? I'm going to say the words day and date. Day and date is what makes Game Pass relevant, whether it be first party or a third party exclusive deal. That's what for me. You know what I mean? That's me myself. When I see a game going day and date that Fork, I was going to go buy Outriders. I did not because it was in Game Pass. Right? That's the lore. Whether it's first party or a deal they cut behind the scenes, that's my lore. Not just the diversity of different games. It's that day and date. And if you stop and think about it for a moment, maybe you guys are shaking your head left to right going, I don't agree with you, Mooch. That's fine. But if I was to say to you in a conversation, what's one of the main reasons you subscribe to Game Pass? You're going to say at some point or another in the conversation, because first party games, and I don't know what I'm getting from third party day and date.
First party day and date.
Right.
Is one of the biggest reasons.
That's one of the
why
biggest
I-
reasons. And so far, we've gotten nothing first party day and date, and we've also gotten some very mediocre, lukewarm third party day and dates. So that's why when everybody's sitting there and they're just like Game Pass, tweet. I mean, you don't see me pom-pomming so much just because we're not there yet. The service is truly not there yet. Now, when you see Halo Infinite, Halo 5, or not Halo 5, pardon me, Horizon 5, that may start to,
That's
right?
the beginning of that whole thing, like kind of like moving forward. And when it comes down to it, the acquirement, when they acquired ZeniMax, and now you have like all the Dishonored, Dooms, and all that stuff in there as well. I mean, that just fleshed it out as well. There is a huge variety. There's single player, multiplayer, sports. There is so much in Game Pass.
I think it's great if you have never played those games before and you're a brand new subscriber to a subscription service and you've never played Doom or Dishonored. I think that's great. But for me personally, I've played all those games, and I'm looking for that next big single-player game that makes me want to jump into Game Pass. That was my point. Not that there aren't single-player games in there. It's just that 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-old single-player games aren't a reason for me specifically to subscribe to Game Pass as somebody looking for a single-player experience. I would be excited the same way people are excited that Back 4 Blood is day and date. I would be excited if Tales of Arise was day and date. I would be excited.
I hear you, but you might also be the odd gamer out in that aspect. You might be the minority when it comes down to it, and you know, as long as
I think there are a lot of single-player gamers out there.
Well, yeah, but there's
No,
a lot.
I don't think he's the odd. I don't think he's the odd man out at all. Because
Hold on, real quick. There are a lot of single-player gamers out there, but there are a lot that don't necessarily look at, well, I want that brand new one, and so they look at the library and it's like, oh, I haven't played that.
What do you mean?
I haven't played that. All right, I'm
Yeah,
getting.
but I mean, if you're a co-op multiplayer Game Pass gamer, you're looking for that new day and date title, and you're excited about Back 4 Blood or Outriders. Why wouldn't single player gamers be looking for that big new single player game in Game Pass?
Not all of them would be like that as well. There are single player gamers who haven't gotten into single player experiences that are in Game Pass as well, and that would also attract them to get the service.
The biggest thing,
but I think they're a lot smaller than you're talking about, because most of the people who are into single player games would have played Dishonored, would have played Doom, would have played all those games.
I'm not going to jump to that.
I would say, I mean, that's very true.
You're jumping to the other conclusion where people are going to go day and date for multiplayer.
No, I'm leaving the door open.
Hold on a second.
Hold on, go ahead, Slow Mo. I want to hear E too.
Scarlet Nexus came out about 2 months ago. Now it's in Game Pass, and I think that's probably early enough that if you've been playing other things and you were just too busy to
well, when did Scarlet Nexus come out? What was the release date for
2 months ago?
Nexus?
Like 2-3 months ago.
It came out
what was the
middle of August.
Of August 2020.
This year.
2021. This year.
Okay.
And that's a
okay,
single
that's
action RPG, which is really good actually. It's probably
it didn't come day and date, correct?
No, it didn't.
Actually,
no.
But that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. I'd rather just stay on
this is what I'm talking about. Is that there may be some people who still didn't play the game. Maybe they were interested in it, but didn't get the opportunity to play it. Like what I'm saying, it's not like the whole day and date is important, but it's not going to cover literally every single person that's interested in potentially getting Game Pass.
Right. The good thing about Game Pass is you can try games that you normally wouldn't try without the risk of buying the game. You could try Outriders and find out that it was not that great of a game, or you have a lot of players that aren't like the panel, or even some people even watching the chat. There's people that may only play 1 or 2 games, so Game Pass works great because they can put it on their backlog. For me, I have 4 kids, so Game Pass works fucking great because I don't have to buy 4 things a Destiny.
See, you say that now, Fork.
Tell me about
I hear that. I hear that. Yeah, see, I hear that from a lot of parents. I'm a parent as well. I have 2 kids. Like, they're specific in what they like, whether we're going out to eat or they're playing a game. Like, kids of these days are not like when we were all young. It was kind of like your parents were like, "This is what you're eating," so you sat down and you ate it. Okay. The thing about it now is it's like my kids come home. They're like, "Dad, this is what I want to play," and if I'm like, "Here's the Game Pass catalog," and they're like, "I don't want to play any of that." And I'm like, that's legitimately what they say. And I understand everyone's kids are different. Everybody's different. Every human being's different. But like, I hear that and it's kind of like, they're so specific in what they like nowadays. Their clothing, the music, even the phones. You got 12 and 13-year-olds being like, "No, I don't want an Android. I want an Apple phone. I don't want an Apple phone. It's like, when people are like, I'm a parent and I just throw Game Pass out there and it's great. Now, if it works for your household, I can't comment. I'm just saying that does, as Worry and Xbot were saying, that doesn't necessarily work for every household.
No, and you're right. It doesn't work for my kids perfectly.
Right.
But there are games that they'll try that.
Yes, they'll try.
I don't have to pay for. For the most part, my kids probably spend 90% of their damn time on Roblox, which unfortunately...
Roblox, Warzone, Fortnite. Ready? You know what those all equal? $0 per month. So, well, out of pocket, unless you're buying skins. Unless you're buying skins or something.
I think everybody's family is kind of different in that regard.
Yeah, it is, Forte, absolutely. But
it's nice having the ability.
My kid almost got me killed on Twitter the other day because she was playing something I didn't know was on Game Pass.
What was that?
Nah, we're not gonna talk about that.
But the one thing that was said between Slow Mo and Worry that I wanted to kind of comment on that I thought was interesting is
Slow Mo.
Back to the day
that you play Boyfriend Dungeon.
So I didn't play Blueprint Dungeon.
I mean, your gamer tag says
You gotta
that was
unlink your
day and date,
you
right?
gotta unlink your Discord, Forte. We can see what you're playing on Discord.
It wasn't Discord. It was on Xbox Live because I'm sharing with my kid, and she was playing a game that I didn't even know it was even available. A game that I didn't even know was on Game Pass.
Sure.
Yeah, that the reason to get your kids their own Xbox Live Gold is priceless just for that right there, Forte.
She
so you
does
don't
have
right.
her own.
So I will say the one thing though is like the other not argument, but the other advertisement I constantly hear for Game Pass is what Slow-Mo saying. Well, it didn't know if this game was going to be coming out, and then the game comes out. So let's take Scarlet Nexus for example. A great pickup, by the way, for Game Pass. A great pickup. But I will say this much. I came very close. Like I was just going to play that game, and I was just going to go buy it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to sit
when it came out. Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to sit here and go, maybe one day the game I want to play is going to come on Game Pass. You know what I mean?
That's the only point I was trying to make. Like if I was really into multiplayer, they announced Back 4 Blood was coming before it came out. I would be hugely excited.
Yes.
Right? They haven't had anything like that. Scarlet Nexus is not a good example because it came out 2 months after. I purchased the game when it came out. If they had said Scarlet Nexus is coming out in 2 months, and by the way, it's going to be day and date in Game Pass, that would get me personally
game changer.
excited.
Yeah, game changer. Day and date. Again, guys, day and date.
I understand that, but what I'm saying
with that too, though.
What I'm saying is that it's not like not everything is that black and white. It's not.
I'm just talking about
no, it's not. But
yeah, but people don't just say I'm either super hyped for a game or I have absolutely zero desire to ever even look at it. Like it's some people will say, that game looks kind of interesting. I don't know if I'm really gonna play it yet or not, or where I'm gonna buy it yet or not. But if I'm already subscribed to Game Pass and it shows up in Game Pass, all right, I'll download it and see what it's about. Maybe I'll take it at that point. I know you're not talking about that though, but in the overall scheme of what value is Game Pass providing? That is a value, is what I'm saying.
I would tell you, I had multiple people come to the store and trade in their copies of Scarlet Nexus on Xbox just because it hit Game Pass, and I said, "Oh, what you trading it in for? Why you trading this great game here?" And it's like, "Nah, man, it's on Game Pass. I could trade it in, get me something else that I haven't played because I can play it on there." I said, "Did you beat the game?" They said, "No, I beat it in Game Pass." It's a pretty long game, and that's still value for a lot of people. So even if people did buy it day and date that it came out, they still have an avenue if they bought it physically.
I think Slow-Mo,
get their money back.
Slow-Mo and Forte, you guys both make great points. I do have to say though, and I know that they'll never be able to do this because Xbox has these deals cut, months in advance before they know they purposefully, and I'm pretty sure the publishers make this in contract to not tell anybody it's going into Game Pass 2 months down the road because then nobody will buy it.
That goes.
Right, we already know exactly. We know that from Control.
And then they come out and say we have zero desire this time to put Scarlet Nexus in Game Pass, and no one really believes it because we all know it's going to show up there eventually.
Yeah,
every game that Phil Spencer every game that got leaked to be in Game Pass and Phil Spencer accidentally put out there or meant to put out there, Control. Oh, we're going nowhere near Game Pass. Where's Control at now?
Oh, it's a Game Pass. Right, exactly.
I mean, in a way, though, that kind of builds it up because if he, we're not doing it, and then people start talking about it, that's talk
exactly.
Still.
It's still talk.
Yeah. And on the developer / publisher side, they hate that because they want that sale.
Absolutely.
They don't want people to think it's going into Game Pass.
They want a double dip, Slow-Mo.
Right, exactly. They want that double dip. They don't want you to go, I was about to buy that, but now I'm just going to wait for it to show up in Game Pass in a month or two. They don't want to hear. That's why they get angry and then immediately throw a tweet out there like, we are not putting that game in Game Pass at this time. That at this time part of their statement always is the out in case someone goes, "Hey, you told me it wasn't going to Game Pass." I'm like, no, we told you it wasn't going to Game Pass at this time, which it absolutely wasn't.
Well, that's because their lawyers said,
exactly, Fork.
Give us an out.
I got a question for Worry, if you don't mind, real quick.
Go ahead.
Because Worry, you said that you're waiting for that one single player game to go.
I don't mean one. I just mean something that would get me as excited as the example is if you're a multiplayer gamer and you love co-op and running around with your friends, then Back 4 Blood announced day and date would be exciting.
Okay.
I'm looking for something like that. And again, all these ancillary examples, I'm talking about just me personally. I'm not saying that it's good for everyone.
I was wondering because you said, basically that one single player game that gets you, like, would you really subscribe to a service for one game? Like,
well, for me, it would be.
Well, hold on now.
I'll give you an example. There's if I saw a big multiplayer centric game drop in that service, and the sort of direction they were going in was that, I would expect more to come. So when you talk about diversity, I'd want to see more diversity in the types of content that I like. And if I get the feeling that more of that is going to come, along with what I already know, I don't think anybody's shocked in the statement that Game Pass is probably going to be a lot of multiplayer centric games, co-op centric games. I don't think that's like a shocking statement to make.
No.
Well,
I don't think that's bad either.
Single player, right?
Right. And that's fine. And I'll wait for that.
Okay.
And if I like that and they make really good content, then I have the idea that they're going to continue to make other content that I personally like, in addition to the diverse content that maybe you like.
Yeah, well, and I'm just saying, when it comes down to it, and then they might be a while off. I know Starfield is next year, but when you look at Hellblade 2, that's another single player game that you'll be able to have in Game Pass when that drops. I believe Avowed. I'm not too sure. I'm not going to say Avowed is strictly single player game because we just really don't know a lot about that yet. So they are focusing with single player in mind as well as multiplayer.
Right, but I'm just the point I'm trying to make though is just for me personally, it feels like Game Pass is really geared towards somebody who loves to play online with friends. That's the feeling I get.
I mean, there's
so many single player games in there already, though.
Right, but those are all old single player games. That's the thing. Like I think that the example with Scarlet Nexus, 2 months. Okay, I mean, look, I bought it when it came out. That's because I'm saying that it's not, but it's still 2 months where I could have not purchased the game, and I buy games digitally, so I can't run to the store like the other person. The example, take it back and just get something else.
So
I would like the feeling.
Was day and date as well, right?
Who?
Death's Door.
The 2D game.
It's not really 2D.
But Death's Door's not in Game Pass.
Yeah, but you're right. It's not in Game Pass. No, that wasn't in Game Pass.
Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
let me ask,
I would be excited.
Let me ask this question.
There was a whole debate around Death's Door that people were like, waiting for it to go to Game Pass.
Is that the one you get Pro?
It was only $20,
and people are like, "Oh no, still gonna wait. I'll wait."
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. Yeah, that was crazy.
That's who played. I didn't play Death's Door. I know which one it is, but I don't know how to explain it to you. It's kind of like an
isometric top-down game.
Yes,
and you're a crow.
You love it, Worry.
You're a crow. You're a crow in the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good game. It was a lot of people were picking it as like a Game of the Year nominee earlier in the year.
It's still up there for me. Up there.
So let me ask.
I think it might be a sleeper as that indie game that might sneak into a Game of the Year nomination. We'll see.
So let me. I'm going to go in reverse. I don't usually go in reverse order here on Super Chats, but I'm going to go ahead and ask JudaZuk here, and I'll go Spawn. I'll start with you because I really want to get your take. I mean, you've heard everyone's take on this. You see where it is, but JudaZuk says so. Basically, Game Pass is really bad for big developers because they will lose money because of Game Pass, but great for indies. Few would buy. So you don't have to necessarily answer JudaZuk. I think he's using a good amount of examples that we've seen from big publishers that say we're not going to go in day and date. But then you see smaller indies go, boy, if it wasn't for Game Pass, we wouldn't have gotten this kind of feedback and this kind of love. What's your take on all of this, Spawn, when it comes to Game Pass and Back for Blood and the games you're seeing that Microsoft is signing? Are they good enough at this point, or for you it's just kind of indifferent?
I mean, for me, it's kind of indifferent. I have the service anyway. If it's somebody who's trying to weigh out if they should buy into it now because of these third-party games, I mean, I think Game Pass itself has the value for what they're asking right now based on what's available to it, and it'll get better as they get more and more bigger first-party games from Microsoft in there. I think it works great for indie developers though, because from what it seems anyway, they get their entire budget back just in the check that Microsoft writes them. And then some of them mention, word of mouth, we just ended up selling a ton more copies because maybe it was a kid who has Game Pass, the other kid doesn't, and then they just get their parents to buy it for them. Or anything like that. It actually probably works all right for larger publishers if they do it right. And what I mean by that is do what Scarlet Nexus did, where you sell as many as you can, and then 2 months later go to Game Pass and take the check.
That's the way.
That'd be my strategy.
Listen, I've been saying that all along. You guys know this on the show. Double dip. Why wouldn't you not double dip? Microsoft's going to cut you a check. Maybe it's a little bit less than going day and date, okay? But you know you're going to make X amount of dollars out there with your product.
Numbers. I think we had numbers due to that Epic court case. Like, we found out how much Microsoft paid for quite a few games.
For the day and date stuff, or just in general, a plethora of different video games?
Some of them, I mean, we could look it up real quick, but I'm pretty sure we know some of the value. Some of them were kind of outlandish, actually.
Well, let's call a spade a spade. Though you have to realize their backs against the wall, right, Spawn? I mean, they sold a console a year ago with no first party games. They've got to put something in there, so they probably did overpay. But that's the market dictating that.
Oh, you know what? It might have been Epic Games actually, but they would at times be comparable, I guess you could say. Give an idea.
Yeah, that was Epic. Yeah. It came out because it was the same court case, so it was the same information coming out all around the same time. That there was some information about Microsoft in there, but it was mostly what Epic was paying to get games free into the Epic Game Store. And yeah, some of those games were they spent a lot of money on.
Well, they want to make that splash, right?
What? Yeah. And it which is, I think, kind of worked for them, and kind of not as much. Like, I mean, Epic has money to burn, but they have carved out a little bit of space in the PC storefront market. But with the amount of money that they spent, I don't know if it really turned out the way they wanted it to. I think maybe they may have wanted to get a bit more there.
Here's an example: Batman Arkham. It just says Arkham. This is for the Epic Game Store. It might have been Arkham Asylum or any of those. They paid $1.5 million to have that added in.
That's insane. That game is so
yeah, right, exactly. Look at like Subnautica, that cost them $1.4 million.
Oh, wow. I had a question, but you kind of just destroyed the question that I had. My question was going to be maybe, and again, Scarlet Nexus again, because we're talking about it. I don't think, and this isn't a knock, but I don't think Scarlet Nexus by itself would have sold very well on Xbox. So maybe the deal of getting it in Game Pass is the best option for Microsoft, as opposed to getting it in front of more people.
Because you're saying a lot of the Xbox community might not be willing to buy that at launch, but if they have Game Pass and it's there and they hear it's a quality game, they might give it a shot, and then therefore in the future, other games like Scarlet Nexus might get a buy.
You think in the future that the audience subscribing to the service would buy the game for $60 or $70 as opposed to just wait for it? Maybe?
Well, it's no what I'm saying is there's no guarantee that some other game that's similar to Scarlet Nexus would go into Game Pass. Also, they marketed the hell out of Scarlet Nexus.
But you know what though, Slomo, Worry made a good point there. You do realize that as time goes by, Microsoft is training, right? They're training their customer base
what I was going to say
wait.
Next, right? Do you think it's a problem where people are just going to become these wait and see gamers and not buy anything and just wait and
You're
see?
seeing the numbers right now with games that are coming out, and they're showing in the UK. The UK is doing a better job showing than US sales, but majority of these games that are coming out, like Scarlet Nexus, etc., are actually doing like upwards of 70 to 80% sales on the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4. And you're seeing 20, sometimes as high as 30% on the Xbox. And it's because Microsoft is basically saying, just, to their customers, wait and see what we do. I mean, there is something to that. And that's when you're a publisher or a developer, you're not excited about that.
Well, the only time I would see it be a problem, because again, like those publishers / developers are getting paid. They're getting a check to go into Game Pass as well. So they're being made whole, except for the ones like, say, Death's Door, where was that game ever going to go to Game Pass? So there are people out there saying, I'm not going to spend $20 on this game, which is egregious to me because it's an excellent game. It's only $20. You won't spend $20 because you think it's going to Game Pass. But it's not even in Game Pass yet. Do we even know it's going to Game Pass?
So
no one knows that. So it's like that developer is missing out on potential sales because people think something is going to happen that's not actually going to, or potentially not really going to happen.
That was his point, right? I agree with that.
Right.
My question is, though, could it be that, I mean, we represent a very small percentage of the gaming community.
Very
For
small.
years, it was always talked about, oh, if you want multiplayer, go Xbox. If you want single player, go PlayStation. Could it be that that's still kind of the mentality with a lot of the casuals of, oh, well, it's Scarlet Nexus is single player, I'll just get it on PlayStation, where Xbox players that are casual are more there for the multiplayer experience, the Game Pass, because it is more centered around the multiplayer experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Jeff Grubb. Who Jeff said, and I think he's talking to all of us here. He says, "But I'm not a dev or a publisher." He said, "A problem for who?" And my answer to him, and Jeff, maybe I hope I'm jumping into the chat while I was also thinking about something else at the same time. But I wrote to Jeff and I said, basically, but as a gamer, do you want to wait and hope a game goes into the service? I mean, I'm not. Maybe it's because we're in the world.
You can do that.
You can absolutely. Well, you absolutely can do that. But I mean, at the same time, if you see a game you want to play. And Spawn, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but like I understand that we're in the, you are more than I, but like you're in the business of games, right? So I mean, if a game comes out and it's something that interests you, Spawn, are you going to more than likely go out and buy it? Or, you might get a review copy, but I mean, put that aside for a second. Would you go buy it day one so you could talk about it within the next 3 days? Or would you just wait and see if it eventually gets into your service of preference? I mean, for the most part, PS Now does that as well. I mean, right? Avengers was in PS Now like 2 months ago, 2 months before Xbox got it. Then Xbox Game Pass gets it, and everybody's like, look at that! Great! And I'm like, but that's already been in the other service for 2 months. Like, I think sometimes people are just making more of Game Pass is legitimately, it lives and dies on whether or not Microsoft's first party shows up.
I think with the Avengers thing, it also was because all the DLC was going to the Game Pass one, and they also had
yes, the DLC.
It was the Xbox Series version, whereas on the PS5, for some weird reason,
it was the PS4 version. Yeah,
it's very strange.
It is odd. That is odd.
For me, if I like a game and it looks good, it's not on Game Pass. I personally just go ahead and buy it. Yeah, like I mean, Death's Door, I bought immediately. I didn't even think about it because it looked awesome, looked like a game I'd enjoy, and it was a great game to pick up.
Now, do you feel like you got screwed or you missed out if it eventually comes to Game Pass or PlayStation Now, like 2 months later, like Scarlet Nexus?
That was pretty quick because I did buy Scarlet Nexus. Yeah,
right. Did you feel like quick. You missed out or you made a mistake?
No, because I did play it as soon as it came out, and I enjoyed that game. And then, of course, we talk about it and stuff online with everything we do. So for me, no, I was fine with it. But to me, it was also clear that game needed help. Like, no one was buying it. I showed up to the podcast and
scary.
I think one other person bought it, and I was like, oh. So, and if you look on like the sales charts, it fell off immediately. So it made sense because Bandai was trying to make a whole thing out of that. That was supposed to be like an entire,
like a cartoon, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was supposed to be an anime. They were supposed to build on it with merchandise and this big long running series.
Did it get canceled?
No, I don't think so.
I think it did get canceled. Yeah.
Oh, because they were trying real hard to build that up, and I don't know how well that worked.
I love the game. I thought the game was great.
Yeah, it's a great game. I really enjoyed it. I actually kind of I thought they were still doing DLC though. I thought I saw something about there was DLC playing DLC.
I mean, I could be wrong. I don't want to be 100% on that. So
I think what was it? Tales of Arise kind of took a little flare away from Scarlet Nexus, right? I mean, they're not similar, but they're not the same. But there's some similarities to the games, right? As far as
Tales of Arise is a very good game, though.
Right. So. Yeah, I think Tales kind of stole a little of its thunder, which I don't know if that helped or hurt the case in that scenario.
Apart from the incessant R1 dialogue in between walking around. Oh my God.
Yeah.
This will not shut up.
Well, what do you guys think now? So Forza Horizon 5's coming out. What is it? November 9th, I want to say. And I know Xbot, you're extremely excited about it. I think you should definitely take the mic here. I mean, what is it that two questions. What is it that people like myself who have gotten a little stale in the Forza Horizon category. I mean, if we do one more festival, I think I might end it. But my point being is what do you also think that this moves the needle for Game Pass?
Real quick before he jumps in there, real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
Now, I'm excited to play that by myself. There's a game coming in there that I know because I played all the others in the past. I can play that by myself and have a great time. I love exploring in the world. I love finding all those collectibles. So that's something that's got me excited.
Do you think it moves the needle for Game Pass?
See, I'm only looking at these things like me personally.
Well,
I mean,
I'm trying.
Like, in general, like the whole market. I don't know. I don't think a racer I don't think that, a racing game is something that's going to like move the needle in terms of people subscribing to a service. I think a lot of people are going to buy the game. I don't know why I think that. I just think more people are going to want that collector's edition and stuff like that. But I don't think that it's going to move the needle like the way like a Horizon Forbidden West is. Something like Starfield, something like Halo. If the campaign is really good, I think that'll move the needle. But I think Forza by itself is a good single player game, even though it's a lot more fun with other people.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Sorry to jump in.
No. Then you made that was a good example.
The single player campaign, even though you can go through it co-op or whatever, I prefer to go through it single player as well, because at least with Forza Horizon 4, when you went into it with friends, like it was a cumulative effort. Like it was like how you and your friends kind of like ended the race. Like if it was first, second, third, or whatever. I'd rather just be in there myself when it comes to that, going through the campaign. But Mooch, first off, when it comes to the festival type stuff, I hear you talking about that a lot. I don't hear a lot of other people like complaining that it's another festival.
It's just to me personally. I mean, I've seen a good amount of it, and shout out to all the great guys on Twitter that have put they put their time out there that they could show. Listen, I mean, we could all sit there and say this game is just like this game, and this game's just like this game. But like, this is legitimately, like you heard Worry, he's excited to go go run over the boards that are hidden between hills and grassy knolls. Right? It's the exact same. Like when people are like, I can't wait. When people say I can't wait to play Forza Horizon 5, I'm like, we just go play Forza Horizon 4. Like, I mean, I don't.
Well, it's just that it's new.
It's legitimately the exact same game.
Not only that, but with 5, like there's different festival locations that actually cater to specific race types as well.
Okay.
Like
I'm all ears. I'm all ears. Listen, this is a learning show. Go ahead.
You go to one festival and it caters more to like the off-roading and slinging dirt and stuff like that, where another one is a lot of like circuit based, where you have that circular type race circuit.
Yes.
And you're doing laps around that. Then there's another one that's more.
That's
more
true. But that's been available in past Horizons.
But they really each kind of like festival location is specialized in that. Where before it was kind of like just splattered across the map. You see what I'm saying? So like each location kind of like its own specialty and whatnot. When it comes down to it, the structure of Forza it's been tweaked, but it's still inherently the same. You got the festival, you got the different festivals, you got the showcases and such. I think a lot of it is there's a lot of new cars involved. Not only that, when it comes to the Forzathon, when it comes to like your kind of like weekly cars you can get and stuff, Forza Horizon 4 did not start with that. When it first released, it didn't have that listing where you go through these certain events and such, and you're able to get these rare cars. This one is starting right off the bat with that, and kind of has a bunch of cars kind of like that will go in there for that whole event right from the beginning. You have the Eliminator, which is kind of like their racing quote unquote battle royale in there from the beginning.
Yes.
There's a lot of
explain Xbox if you can. If you don't know, that's fine. The Eliminator, that battle royale that they put out late into 4 and now will be there for 5. What is that? How does that entail? Is it 100 cars? And where's the victor? How does the victor?
I don't remember how many cars are in there, but everybody starts with a base car, and I think it's going to be the Volkswagen Beetle.
Okay.
Right, and then as you come across each other, right?
Yes.
One person can kind of like beep the horn, and it'll start a race with that person. All right. Now, when that race gets going, whoever wins that race, right?
Yes.
Has a choice of either upgrading their car with a random car or taking that person's car to continue the elimination event. And then not only that, but as you're doing that, as you're racing, you can take their car, you can upgrade your car. There's also spots throughout the map where you can drive into it, and it offers an upgraded car as well. And basically, you're racing each other until there's a certain amount of racers left, and then it's just an all-out race to whoever's in first place. Whoever gets first place. So it's really intense because you can be driving like even off-road, and you could be
and there's
like,
a battle royale.
yeah, you can be like, I'm gonna avoid this until more and more people get eliminated, but then right over the hill comes somebody just like hanging on their horn,
Right.
and just initiates a race with you, and now all of a sudden you have to go from your kind of like hide and seek kind of like strategy to, oh man,
Yeah.
now I got to win this race, and he was going in this direction, I'm pointed in that direction. It's really fun. It's really fun. It's really random. It's a good mode for just like
Well,
a pick up and play.
no,
You know what I'm
and thank you for that description, Xbox, because I didn't know, and you did clarify that. I wanted to go to Eric, because Eric, you were going to make a comment on the Game Pass stuff a moment ago, and this kind of all still is in that same category. I just brought up Horizon because Horizon is going to be coming out before Halo, and it could make an impact on whether or not subscription numbers go up a bit from this. But you had a comment prior. Do you remember what you were going to say earlier on the Game Pass subject, and then you can kind of parlay it into your opinion on Horizon?
Yeah, no, I think you need a game like Horizon to go in, especially like going into like the end of the year or whatever. Will it move the needle? I'm kind of like with worry, like who knows as far as, but it's like a racer, so again, it's one of those games that's like who knows. But no, what I was gonna say is, when you kind of think about these things analytically as a consumer, Game Pass is fine. You kind of look at it and you go, it's got a bunch of variety or whatever, and you jump in there and you play and you whatever. But the questions I always ask is, would I have this if I wasn't already kind of like grandfathered into it?
Right.
And I just kind of, me personally, like do my thing. I don't use my Game Pass that often. I'm already in it because I've already subscribed and I have it for like a couple years or whatever, right? But I don't necessarily use it because I tend to buy the things I'm going to buy and I play them. But the question I always kind of ask is, people kind of always only put their best foot forward when they talk about something like Game Pass because they want it to be successful and they want it to be like the great thing. But I always kind of look on the periphery about what everything kind of means. So the question I always ask is, yes, the big devs can jump into Game Pass and they can see some benefit. Some of the indie devs have spoken out and said, yeah, we saw, numbers go up and we saw this and that. But what about the developer that can't get into Game Pass? Because people tend to have this mindset that almost every game that goes to Microsoft or goes to Xbox goes into Game Pass. And they have a certain amount of games that they let in and a certain amount of games that don't get in. And it's already hard enough in storefronts to be recognized for your game or to get your game spotlighted or to get your game shown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what about that smaller dev that no one seems to think about, since we talk about caring for the devs, that can't get into a Game Pass? And now they got to compete with that too.
Yeah.
They can always look into Game Preview, which is on Xbox as well. So as like when as they're developing their game, they could put their game in the Game.
But who talks about but Xbox? Who talks about Game Preview versus Game Pass? Microsoft doesn't.
The biggest part of the Game Preview, though, is most games that have gone into that have not done well. So a lot of people that do Game Preview do it with the fact that you're going to play a game for 2 to 3 years that may or may not actually get better.
Yep.
Right. And Game Preview
100%
is for a game that's continuing on and you're building on it. But there are developers who are making a game and putting it on the storefront and hoping that their game sells, but they're maybe getting ignored. And I'm saying this. I'm saying I can't say who, but I'm saying this because I know someone who had a game go to Microsoft and they're like, I wish I could get into Game Pass.
Yeah, I know a developer that has said that as well. They were at the Idea Xbox showcase earlier this year. Game is Los Adelons. The community manager and lead game designer in the Q&A was asked about potentially going to Game Pass, and they said, well, we would love to be in Game Pass, but that's up to Microsoft.
Right. So that's the side of it that nobody ever wants to talk about. People only want to talk about what it benefits those who can get into it and kind of go on from there. But
that's an outstanding point, E. And that's something that I go ahead, what was going to say?
Yeah, no, just I hear what you're saying, and like when it comes down to it, I guess they can't let everybody in. I don't.
Well, I say this Xbox to say like everything that glitters isn't always gold.
Right.
Now, for the benefits that we see from a Game Pass, yeah, it sounds great. On paper, it all sounds great, but we have no data to say what the long-term effects that could do on the industry. We only think about it in the positive ways and what it benefits.
Right.
Like our bottom line, our dollar. But if we're legit just sitting and analyzing and talking because we're on a show, talk about all of it. But people don't want to talk about that outside part of it. They want to talk about the positive parts of it.
I've gone on record on CrossFire when it comes to like streaming services as a whole. if they do like grab a foothold, become a thing, a main thing within the gaming industry, I mean, you're basically giving up your ownership to games at that point in time. Like
well, there's
kinda
that
started doing
aspect
that. We
too.
kinda started doing that
I think
already in
he's
a lot of
and I don't want to
other
put words in your mouth, but I think what you were alluding to is just the ramifications of what happens with developing teams, right? I mean, what kind of path we go down, what kind of games we're going to get, what kind of creative
People
freedom.
don't talk about the successes, Mooch. Nobody ever talks about.
That's what I'm saying, and that's why I try to bring it up on the show all the time, and people are like, "Boo that man!" You know, it's like everyone always says this, and Spawn. That's why it's great to have you on the show. Is, you know, regardless of what you listen to or where you read, everything's always just pro Game Pass. I mean, you couldn't even send me 3 negative articles or 3 hypotheticals. No one ever looks at the other side of it, and Microsoft doesn't give any numbers. We don't know nobody knows what's going on. You know what I mean?
We don't have any data to say this is
nobody knows
the case.
You know, I mean, so
or what the long-term effect will be. I mean, it could be great, but people only want to look at it as it will be great. It's going to be fantastic. We don't know.
Jeff says, but we have data on. Jeff says we do have data on the industry as it stands, and it's not like that. It's great. He goes, so maybe things need to change. Well, you know what, Jeff? I'll go ahead and say okay, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to underline and highlight the word maybe. Maybe.
That's my whole point.
That's the thing. So what I always say to Jeff, and I always say to all the guys, what about looking into the other side of it? Like, what we've already, so we tackled the positives. What's the other side of maybe? Maybe it won't.
Yeah. Well, maybe,
you know what I mean? Can we? I would be interested to see what maybe some of the concerns would be on the other side of maybe. And that's,
I think in terms of just the content that's being created, that was the point I was trying to make. Like, I can't really speak in terms of 15, 20 years from now, what's going to happen. But for me personally, as a consumer who plays games, for me, looking at the service, what kind of content is the service going to spur to create for it? Is it going to be content that, and I'm speaking about me personally, is it going to be content that I gravitate towards, or is it going to force the type of content? Like, for instance, Avowed is going to be single player. Fable is going to be single player.
Yes.
Okay, are they going to be single player though? Or are they going to be these quote unquote single player games, but it's really meant for 4 people running around together? And that is a very different development process. It's a very different development for a game like that than it is for like a big single player game like a Last of Us. Now, again, if there are more people out there that want that type of content, then the service will be great. I'm just talking about me personally. I want to know that Game Pass isn't going to force the creation of content that I personally might not be looking to consume. I'd rather it create all kinds of content, including the kind of content
that's a great
that I
example
consume.
you brought up, Rory. Like you said, Fable, all these games are going to have a single player aspect to the game, right? Starfield. But are they designed around that being the true entity of it, or is it really just going to be a, you know, it'd be better, like with Back 4 Blood, right? Like, you could play it alone, but there's parts of the game that are locked and achievements that are locked. You know, I mean, so the game is definitely catered towards multiplayer, which, again,
and
for me
like
is
that,
fine. For Worry, not so much. You know, and it is what it is. It's, you know, shout out to Jeff. He says here, because I'm going to give Jeff his time here because I'm speaking to him. He says, but that's the point. He says, games are already moving toward online connectivity. Game Pass is an antidote to that. Yeah,
but not all games are doing that.
So
it's fine if those are the games that you want to play, but there are other games that aren't doing that are very successful.
Yeah, that's true. There are that is true. And I think when you hear like Worry or some of my concern is, and I would say this to Jeff, is that, yeah, I agree with that part of what you said. But the other part of it is what about the other folks that just want to get immersed into a story? Right. You know what I mean?
It always seems to be this all or nothing argument. You know what I mean? Like, okay, games are moving towards that, so everything has to be that. Or, you know, Microsoft has a subscription service, so everything has to be a subscription service. And I just don't subscribe to that belief.
Right. So I said earlier that with Game Pass, you can try games without that, you know, without the risk of, is this going to be good or not? But in a way, like Jackson E. I'm sorry, I don't know what to call him, man. My bad.
Eric. It's all good.
But I mean, like he said, what about the indies? Well, the biggest problem is I can do Game Pass. Okay, I pay $10 or $15 a month, and I can play all these games without risk. Hey, there's this indie that costs $5. Oh, Yeah, but what if it's not good? I'm out $5. And I think
Right.
that's where Game Pass can really hurt a lot of games. Is before that, people wouldn't be willing to try stuff because, hey, I'll try it, no big deal. But now there's so many games that are in Game Pass that it can hurt those games that may not get the light of day because they didn't get on Game Pass. And it could be then people are like, well, why didn't it get a Game Pass? Is it just not good enough? So I mean, it's
And-
kind of a double-edged sword in some ways.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on that because this is something I had thought about before, and actually, like Slow-Mo, we've talked about this in DM, like the point that I brought up. But what really made me start thinking about it was Death's Door, and in spite of itself, Death's Door still found a lot of critical acclaim, a lot of success, because it is a good game. But it was another example, like the game hit the service, and people were saying, "Yo, don't sleep on this game. Just buy it. It's $15. It was $15, I think, when it dropped, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
15 or 20 bucks. $20.
Either way. And people were like, it's well worth it. Pick it up. And people are like, nah, I'll wait for it to be in Game Pass. And that's fine. Trust me, I'm not saying that it's not something you can do. You make the decision that you want to do. But I feel like there's like this contingent of people who aren't they talk so much about supporting devs, but it's like, are you supporting devs or are you more about supporting Game Pass?
Right.
Are you more about playing games or are you more about supporting Game Pass? Because you have gamers telling you that this game is so worth it. This is up your alley. You're going to love this game. Just drop the dough on it. Nah, I'll wait. I'll keep waiting.
Yeah, and it's funny because
shout out to that's why I started thinking about other developers.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's the same thing. Shout out to Straight Duval. He goes, at this point, Mooch just doesn't want to like Game Pass. Straight Duval, that's the point he's trying. That's what he's trying to say here. Are we having a discussion on the quality of games that are going in there? Or are you the opposite of what you're saying right there and you're just loving it just to love it? And that's fine. I mean, look, what I mean?
Because you want to support.
You want to support
you're
it.
An Xbox fan and you're
right.
And you want Microsoft to win. Rah, rah, rah. Let's get them to win. And it's like,
no, I don't.
Where are we losing the message?
Like Xbox winner. To me, it just gives me an absolute value. I have big single player games.
Xbox. No. First of all, anybody that follows Xbot on his channel or on Twitter knows Xbot's getting his value out of Game Pass, and I know that for a fact. So you're not but Xbot. What I'm trying to say is you're one of the rare ones that shows like you're playing like 15 different games in Game Pass. You know what I mean? Like myself, I'm more in E's camp, and I know Crap said it a bunch of times. I think I've downloaded I've had Game Pass since 2017, 2018 when it came out. And I think I've downloaded like 5 games off of it. Like maybe 6. I don't, because like when a game comes out, I just go get it. You know what I mean? I don't pull out a bunch of candles and start praying it shows up in a couple of months. You know what I mean? Like I go get it. You know what I mean? It's like I don't, myself personally, that's why I said to you, for me personally, and I've been saying this since Game Pass came out, before Microsoft said that, I said day and date. Go back and watch the MNCs. I said it, day and date. That's what Game Pass's true value is. Whether it's third party or first party, whatever they sign, whatever they get in there, day and day. The day the game comes out, I come home and I can download it on Game Pass. For me, that's the value. That's the value.
Same
and if you say, well, Mooch, this game came out 6 months later. I mean, 2 things. I either played it already, probably picked it up discount at GameStop for $20-$30 or digitally. These digital sales, that's the other thing. Everything's digitally on sale 2-3 months after it comes out anyway. So, I mean, do you have to sit there? You know what I'm saying?
We've been battling that since like the days of Games with Gold when it was a really good service, like the whole Games with Gold thing. Like, you would buy a game like on a Black Friday deal or something like that, right?
Right.
Sit on it for a while, not get to it, and then you're like, God damn it, just hit Games with Gold. Shit.
Yeah. Games with Gold.
That's the battle we've always had.
People used to get really pissed at that.
Right. So I can imagine that's happening with Game Pass, but the day and date thing, you're absolutely right about, because for me, like Psychonauts 2 was probably like the first game in a long while that hit day and date on Game Pass, and that was the one I jumped on immediately.
Right.
But if that game wasn't day and date, I'm a Psychonauts fan. I would have bought it anyway.
Right. Shout out to Punkidish here. In Punk, I know Punk. Shout out to Punk. He said he's a little late to the show, but he says, Mooch, you guys talk about the quality of games that go into Game Pass, but we all know that it's subjective. What I may think is quality may suck to you, and vice versa. Punk, we completely agree with that. We touched on that, I think, a bit early, because the Game Pass thing has kind of shifted through a couple of different conversations here. But much love to Mooch. Much love to you too, Punk. I appreciate that, buddy. Great guy. We are passing the 2-hour mark here, guys, and just so much. There's so much to talk about. I mean, we did hit some of the big things. I did want to get a little bit into Battlefield 2042 and the whole hard zone thing, which, by the way, I know you guys know, Mooch not being the hugest Battlefield fan, I will say the hard zone footage I saw was looking good. That might be, and that's what I was saying with Halo, which we're not gonna be able to get into. Maybe we'll get into it next week. Throw a new mode out there, people. Throw a mode, right? Everyone's like, everyone's doing the Halo, and Spawn. I know you're a huge Halo nut, so I really wanted to get into that with you. But Spawn, one of my biggest gripes is, I'm looking forward to Halo Infinite's campaign. And the multi, I get it. I was in the tech test. I was in the insider thing. I played last weekend or the weekend before. Definitely feels better, feels good. But I'm not going to lie to you, playing Capture the Flag didn't really do it for me after, 4 rounds in a row. I need a new mode. I like, a couple people think I play only Warzone. No, I'm playing Far Cry, I'm playing Metroid. I like to play, this is my game with my friends. This is the game I just like to play. But I like a mode. Like, for me, Battle Royale still feels a bit new. Everybody go, come on, Mooch, how can you say Battle Royale's new? Listen, if you don't think Battle Royale's new and you're telling me you're excited for Capture the Flag, I mean, what are we talking about? When it comes to Halo or it comes to Battlefield, I'm not saying you need a Battle Royale. I'm saying you just need a new mode. Champion Hill's coming out for Vanguard. You may not like it. You may like it. It's a new mode. Warzone still kind of feels new. They changed the map up. Not so much, Battle Royale.
Is the talk around Vanguard? I don't really see anyone talk about that game.
Well, they're not talking about it, but 800 million people are going to buy it.
Yeah, I know. It's strange. Like, this is the one year where I look around and just don't hear that much about the new Call of Duty game.
I think that's
Call
because
of
you
Duty's
got
like Nintendo. They could release the same game they released last year, and people will still buy it. It's that type of game.
That's the thing. And Fork, I agree with you. They could, but hence they put new modes in, and whether you like them or they're small or not. But to answer Spawn's question, I mean, let's look at the 800-pound elephant in the room here, right? And that really is Halo and Battlefield. Halo hasn't been around for 6 years, okay? And now you got Battlefield, which has been incognito for a couple of years. So I definitely think that they're overshadowing it. But again, at the end of the day, my question, I'm going to throw this question, Spawn, out, and I want to have you on before February, okay? But let's just say I can't get you back on the show till February. I want to know from December 8th, okay, respectively, whether we're talking about just Halo or Battlefield, how many people are excited and still enthralled with Halo in February or March as they are in December? And the reason I posed that question, okay, isn't the Halo community. The Halo community is strong, okay? It is massive and it's strong. They're there now. They're playing right now, okay? They're playing Halo 5. They're going to be there now, December 8th, and next year. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about that spike we see. How many people are going to stick around to play Domination and Capture the Flag? You know what I mean? And I understand right now it's like everyone's hyped. I get it, but I think that's going to kind of get diluted. Now, again, I want to reemphasize, and then Spawn, I do want to get your point before we wrap up the show. I'm not saying this because I'm saying Halo needs. Do I think a Battle Royale for Halo would be great? Yep, I do. I would like it. I'm biased. But what I want to say is it needs a new mode. It needs something. And I'm not complaining about the TTK and all that other stuff. I'm not complaining. That's Halo. I'm not going to critique Halo for being Halo. But do you see my point, Spawn, on can we get just something new out of this? And right now we're not seeing it, and maybe it's coming down the pipe, but do you think it needs a shot in the arm?
That's where I think it's the most disappointing that Forge isn't there at launch, because that would be a mode that would create all kinds of new gameplay ideas, because a lot of stuff we had back in Halo 3 came from Forge, and at the time Bungie basically took a lot of those ideas that the community was creating and just worked them into matchmaking. And then we all of a sudden had like Griffball or Rocket Racing or just like all these crazy modes. But if you're talking about the idea of a battle royale style game in Halo, it sounded like they probably worked on it or are even still working on it. So I wouldn't be shocked if the game comes out and then in like the first season, we have some weird take for Halo on like a battle royale or
how
something
great would that be?
Different.
Do you welcome that with open arms?
I have no problem with them building out on Halo. I probably wouldn't play it that much just because I like just team deathmatch, capture the flag, and like generally plant the bomb. Those are pretty good. But I would at least check it out just to see what they did with it. But I mean, the game has to continue to evolve to remain relevant. Like that, yes, I do believe that. So either they catch on heavily in like the I guess the pros for gaming, or they continue to just capture casuals through different things like Battle Royale. But I honestly think looking at what we have right now in front of us, Call of Duty Vanguard, Battlefield, and Halo, I think Halo has a very good chance of being the most successful this year.
Well, so what do you mean by successful?
Well, I guess you would go buy for Halo because it's free to play, right? For the multiplayer.
Right, it's free to play, yes.
I guess you would just go buy the overall player base between all of them. Okay,
so let me take it one step further. Okay, so overall player base, do you think that the overall player base will keep its numbers that you're going to see in December into March of 2022 for Halo?
I'm going to say probably not, because that's during like the launch month.
Right.
So it'll probably decline somewhat, just like Call of Duty will decline and Battlefield. Like Battlefield, I played the beta and I have some concerns about that game.
I'm glad somebody said that.
It was exceptionally broken the entire time. And I was like, is this going to launch in a month? And then word came out that it was months, like it was a build from months ago. And then a new story came out that said it was actually from September. I don't know. It seems concerning with that. And then, like I said, Call of Duty Vanguard, this is probably the least hyped I've heard for Call of Duty in a long time. It'll probably still do well, but will it do as well as Modern Warfare?
No.
I don't think it will.
No, in Spawn, the reason it won't is twofold. First of all, like you just said, it's competing. It's got two big competitors this year. But number two, the biggest reason is it's the World War II one. The World War II one is always the little brother, you know? Now, am I interested? Look, do you remember, I got to tell everyone to go back in time again in their mind. Everyone's got short-term memory. Do you remember when Call of Duty was the same thing every year, and we're like, do something different? They purposefully do the World War II one to change things up. Now, is it necessarily the fan favorite? I can tolerate it. If you're a history buff, maybe you care. But it is going to be the little brother in the series.
The problem is Battlefield has so much cool looking stuff in it, and then you go to Call of Duty and they're like firing a gun once and then looking to like reload it again.
Right. Right. Well, it was the same thing when Modern Warfare came out for Call of Duty, and then Battlefield 1 was World War 1.
Yeah. So I think
that people were throwing typewriters at each other in that game.
Yeah. I think Battlefield has the right idea right now. It's more the execution, and if they can pull it off without it crashing immediately.
No, I completely agree. And we are well over the 2-hour mark. I'm going to let everybody hang out with their families. And Fork, did you have something to contribute? I apologize if you were saying something I couldn't hear.
Oh, no, I was just listening. But I mean, my only thing is, I think the problem with Call of Duty is Spawn said it. World War II has been done so much. Most of us that are old enough remember playing 1941.
Yeah.
Or Battlefield 1942. I mean, Call of Duty, World War II has been done and just beaten to death. You need to find a new girlfriend and move on. I mean, it's just...
Well, so I agree with you, but I've been thinking about this because somebody threw this at me a couple weeks ago, Fork. I quick rebuttal to your point. I agree with you 110%. But we see World War I as a complete failure, right? Because at that point, you know what I mean? We're throwing feathered pens at each other. We've got to go on, right? So it's World War II. Cold War already kind of attacks the Vietnam era, right? That whole 1960s time. So that's already taken care of. And then you've got Modern Warfare, which doesn't, go into like flying saucers, but it keeps us within that 20-year gap of the future to current day technology. So I don't really know where they would go out of sci-fi. Maybe they could replace it with, but I got news for you. Do you remember when Call of Duty had the jetpacks and the double jumps and all that?
Yeah.
Everyone hated that. Everyone hated
that.
Just
do a revolutionary war.
Let's just go like prehistoric. Let's just do that.
Like,
everybody's going prehistoric. That'll be great.
Let's go back to muskets where it's 1 minute reloads.
It'll be a $20 pack to get a different bunch of like throwing knives or throwing sticks. Yeah. Guys, outstanding show here. I got to plug a few people. I'm going to go ahead and do the outros for the two fine gentlemen that are here. Everyone else had to kind of leave, as you can see, after we get to the 9 o'clock mark. But I'll go in reverse order. Spawn, outstanding to have you on the show, man. Absolutely a lot of fun. And, it was a big news week in the sense of Nintendo, and I know that that's something that I like every once in a while to kind of get your hands in that Nintendo news. And when they come out and they don't do just something normal or just a direct, they had a lot of stuff going on. They had a game release. They had a console release, an updated console release. They had the whole online fiasco. I wouldn't say it's fiasco. It was a lot of up in arms today. So there was a lot to talk about, and I love getting your take when it comes to that stuff. So, Spawn, outstanding to have you here. We look forward to you when you're on the show. We can't wait till you're back on again. Let people know where they can find you. And like I said, hopefully we'll get you on before February, but I'd like to have you on again after maybe the holidays.
You can find me on Spawn Wave. You just search that up on YouTube. I pretty much have video up every day, especially in the morning weekdays. And don't be afraid of the 2D games. I still need that big new Mega Man game. I would pay $60 for a big new Mega Man game. So let's make that happen.
It's nice that they're making a new Kirby that's not 2D though. You all right with that?
I know. Okay. Everything's moving away from I'm okay with the 3D games. I like to have something different here and there. It's fun.
Spawn, listen, you're preaching to the choir, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I'm telling you right now, this Metroid is very refreshing. Again, I grew up with SNES and Metroid, so for me, this is just the 2D scroller thing is I have no issue with it at all. But I do understand people saying that they want to have the 3D. I get that as well. But Spawn, thank you for being here tonight. It truly means a lot. And then I've got my buddy here, Forkboy Gaming from Gaming Beyond the Box. Forkboy, outstanding to have you on the show, buddy. And listen, I got to tell you, you've always been you're just so positive. He's such a positive gamer. I love him so much. Fork, let people know where they can find you, buddy. And let's get some Back 4 Blood in this weekend if you got some time.
I haven't downloaded it yet, man.
That's okay. I'll wait for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll download it. I'm off Monday, so I have this entire weekend, so I will do that after the show.
Awesome.
You can find me Forkboy_gaming on Twitter and Forkboy_gaming on Forkboy Gaming on Xbox. I don't own a PlayStation, but enjoy where you play, what you play. That's
right.
All that matters.
110% Fork.
And about Game Pass, while everyone was talking, I actually thought about it. I actually don't think I've actually downloaded anything on Game Pass that I haven't already bought.
That's interesting. There's a new stat. I don't think
I started going through all my games, and I'm like, oh shit! Everything I've downloaded, I've either bought after I played it, or I bought it prior. I'm like, I'm the worst Game Pass person. Yeah,
no, we're in the exact same ballpark. Like I said, I haven't downloaded much because like I said, especially the world we're in, it's hard. And I always say this to the chat too, and Spawn, same thing for your audience, right? People that come and listen to the show every week, these are gamers. They're hardcore gamers, right? And they respectfully should be called as such. So a lot of times when you hear people say this and that, it's like, I understand that maybe people outside of the world that we're in have a different practice for purchasing games or downloading games. But for me personally, to have a show and to be able to talk, how can I discuss Metroid or tell them if I liked the game or how it looked on my OLED? I can't sit here and say it was a great game and I enjoyed it thoroughly and it looked great on the Switch if I didn't have the new Switch and I didn't have Metroid. So I've got to go and get it. I can't wait and say, well, Spawn, I'd love to talk to you about Metroid this week. Thanks for having me on the show, but I'm waiting for it to go on sale. You know what I mean? Well, he'd be like, what the hell are you here for? So it is what we do. We all kind of, we all talk games and it's what we kind of do. So it's a bit of, and the same thing goes for the audience because the audience loves video games too. So they're out there and they're buying games and they're keeping track of what's going on in the community, and that's what makes it so great. I love it so much. It's why we do what we do. And I got a couple people here I want to plug. Shout out to the great Eric Jackson. He's at ECJAXSON. That's Eric Jackson, and outstanding to have the great man, the voice of reason, if you will. We also had, let's see here, Gaming Forte had to leave early. He worked late and he left early. That's at Gaming_Forte and at Slow-Mo Backslap. They both do DPS podcasts on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern. Go check them out. And the great Xbot448, who had to leave, he does his next podcast on Thursdays. Also, I believe at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So go check out Xbot448. It's the same on YouTube and on Twitter, and it's the_crap gamer. He's not feeling so well. Send him a tweet, say crap. We hope you feel better. And also the great BRAP Basement Radio Arcade podcast, Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time. BRAP had a family event, but he'll be back next week as well. So guys, that being said, I think I got everybody covered here. If I didn't, I apologize. Go ahead and hit that like button on the way out. Hit the subscribe button. If you want to go ahead and become a Mooch Maniac family member, go ahead and hit that join button. We'll get you a Mooch Maniac mug. That being said, guys, we'll see you next Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Enjoy what you enjoy, and we will see you next week. Peace out and good night.